Hey guys, tonight we're trading Netflix and doom scrolling for a 12th century Chinese infirmary where they treated burnout with magnolia buds and passive-aggressive poetry. Picture this: you shuffle through lacquered doors as dusk stains the courtyard indigo, your shoes still caked with Canal District mud. A silk-robed figure lights lanterns shaped like fireflies. Each click of the flint echoes in your sleep-deprived skull. Wood smoke curls around dried chrysanthemums hanging from the rafters. Their honeyed bitterness practically licks your tongue. Let's get real. You'd last 3 minutes here before asking for Wi-Fi passwords. Ancient Chinese medicine didn't do quick fixes. Just ask Emperor Huizong, who reportedly drank powdered jade to live forever. Spoiler, he died at 53. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I'm weirdly invested in time zones today. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your tired bones recognize this place before your brain does, the way cedar screens muffle voices into lullabies. The floorboards worn smooth by a millennium of slippered feet. Historians still argue whether Song Dynasty clinics kept nocturnal hours, but your goose flesh says yes. That shadowed alcove probably stored enough ginger root to reignite a corpse. The healer glides past her sash, trailing the faintest whiff of fermented licorice. You catch fragmented sentences between shelf-lined walls. Nighttime pulse readings. Phoenixi Moxibustion. She pauses beneath a hanging bundle of artemisia. Fun fact: they burned this stuff as medieval mosquito repellent. Try dropping that at your next barbecue. You're nudged toward a seating platform when the cushions are stuffed with lotus seed pods. Each shift crunches like stepping on a wasp's nest. For cooling summer heat, she explains without turning the same tone your dentist uses before mentioning a root canal. A clay teapot appears, its glaze cracked into spiderweb patterns. Steam carries something earthy, mushroomy, vaguely threatening. Your hostess deposits a cup without ceremony. Tuckahoo and tree ear fungus, she says, then adds, with what might be sarcasm for fortification. Outside, a fruit bat screeches. Inside, your pinky trembles against the cup's rim. Remember those chrysanthemums overhead? Revolutionaries used their petals to encrypt messages during the Ginsong Wars. Tonight, they're just judging your life choices. The first sip coats your throat like liquefied forest floor. The second summons a memory, your 4th grade piano recital. That time you cried into a potted fern. Before the third sip, she whisks the cup away. Steeping time matters, she murmurs, dipping her sleeve just beyond the lantern's reach. Cold seeps through the floor despite the braziers. Your nostrils flare at a new scent, salted plums and fermented tofu. Nope, just your armpits embracing the concept of natural deodorant. She returns with a bamboo tray. Its contents gleam moist and suspicious. Loofah sponge for scrubbing, she announces. And silkworm pupae paste. Your smile freezes. Historians love debating whether beauty regimens used actual larvae tonight. You're the test subject. The pupae glisten under firelight, tiny commas suspended in amber goo. Applied to rashes, she clarifies. Your eczema has entered the chat. A moth spirals into a lantern. The tink of its collision mirrors your mental state. The healer watches its wings flutter against rice paper. Persistent, she notes her first compliment of the evening. You're handed a bronze hand mirror for the skincare routine. Your reflection shows a person who definitely forgot to cancel their Hulu trial. The pupae paste smells like wet upholstery, but your inflamed jawline already feels less angry. She leaves you blotched, but hydrated, vanishing behind a screen painted with cranes. Their inked wings ripple as she moves, one eye always visible through the gaps. You count medicine jars to avoid eye contact, turtle shell shavings, pickled seahorses, something labeled autumn cicada molds. When she reappears, it's with a jade comb and raised eyebrow. Scalp tension reveals spleen imbalances, she declares, already scraping the teeth through your scalp. The pain's exquisite, like popping a pimple behind your ear. Through the open doorway, a sliver of moon hangs between rooftops. The real ones know the Song Dynasty perfected lunar calendars. They're astronomers calculating eclipses down to the hour. You, however, just want to nap in that moonbeam like a half-dead housecat. The comb freezes mid-stroke. You've been chewing mastic, she accuses, your secret gum habit dissolving under her squint. Before you can concoct a lie about medicinal purposes, she drops a pinecone-sized resin chunk into your palm. For fresh breath, she says, mouth twitching at your wince. Footsteps echo from the courtyard patients. Guards, a really lost noodle vendor. She extinguishes 2 lanterns with a wave of her sleeve. The sudden dimness hides her face, but sharpens her voice. The Empress Dowager took this same treatment at 19. You glance at her unlined hands, calculate dynastic timelines, decide ignorance is bliss. A bronze bell chimes somewhere distant, its vibrations loosening your molars. She folds your fingers around a silk pouch of chrysanthemum buds. Steep these tomorrow, she orders, with honey. And fewer existential crises. Her sleeve brushes yours as she turns the fabric humming with static. You half expect her to vanish in a puff of myrrh smoke. Instead, she gestures toward a shadowed corridor. There are rooms. 3 syllables, not a promise, but a dare. You cross the threshold, wooden floorboards, sighing underfoot like old scholars at a poetry contest. The healer's sleeves flutter as she turns, indigo silk whispering secrets only looms understand. Her fingers find your wrist before you finish inhaling, cool jade rings pressing into your tendons. 28 pulse qualities, she murmurs, referencing the Song Dynasty's obsessive categorizing. of bodily rivers. Historians still argue whether imperial doctors could actually feel all those variations, or just wanted thicker medical scrolls. Her thumb anchors below your palm, a human candle wick seeking the flame of your chi. A clay cup appears at your elbow, steam curling into the shape of a leafless tree. You sip scalding broth tasting of 4 summers, dried lychee, aged tangerine peel, something earthy that might have been deer antler velvet. For grounding, she says, ignoring your modern skepticism about animal ingredients in traditional medicine. Her nail traces the blue roadmap inside your arm veins as tributaries to some unseen organcy. Fire overpowers water here, she tuts, dipping into elemental diagnosis terminology that once made Confucian scholars roll their eyes. You nearly joke about checking your zodiac app, then notice her earlobe. A tiny silver needle glints there, an ancient anti-headache trick some still swear by. 3 dried cicadas rattle in a bamboo cage overhead, their autumn molts destined for fever tinctures. She tilts her head, studying you like a puzzle box from the Ming Era secret surveillance office. Who greased your dragon? She asks deadpan, an old idiom about overwork that's funnier in Cantonese. Pressure builds behind your sternum, that familiar modern burn. Her fingers tighten. Ah, the ambition organs inflamed. The phrase shouldn't make sense, yet your shoulders creep toward your ears in recognition. She hums a tavern song from Southern Tang poetry, its rhythm slowing your pulse, despite the lyrics being basically, "My concubine left and took the good wine." A lacquered box opens its compartments, revealing crumbling petals and what might be fossilized seahorses. Historians love debating whether dragon bones in old prescriptions were really dinosaur fossils or just donkey vertebrae sold by sneaky apothecaries. She pinches a resinous nugget, places it on your tongue without warning. It tastes like a campfire doused in ceremonial wine, resin turning sweet as it melts. Your jaw unclenches for the first time since, actually, when did you last stop gritting your teeth? 1998. She smirks, reading that thought in your meridians. We'll stew your liver in magnolia buds later, she promises, either metaphorically or literally. You decide not to ask. Outside, a nightingale's triple cry pierces the haze. The healer's gaze sharpens, translating avian gossip into human concerns. North Courtyard's fox spirits are fighting again. She mutters, then blinks, as if catching herself. Her diagnosis scroll unfurls, brushed characters swimming like black koi across rice paper. One phrase repeats. Heart fire scorches clarity, inked in what smells suspiciously of wolfberry wine. She presses a warmed stone against your nape, its heat spreading like ink in water. Empress Liu used these for migraines. She offers, casually name-dropping the Song ruler, who once outlawed low-cut dresses. The rocks carved with lotus petals worn smooth by a millennium of royal foreheads. Your third eye throbs in sympathy. By the time she prescribes 8 hours of sleep before the rooster crows, your eyelids have turned to lead curtains. You try protesting about deadlines, but the words dissolve into a yawn. Even the Tang Dynasty's yawn suppression acupoints couldn't fix. The last thing you smell before surrender, cinnamon oil, and the faintest ghost of a Jurchen battlefield salve, its recipe lost when kitten libraries burned. The healer drags a stone mortar across the workbench, its weight etching fresh grooves into centuries-old cedar. Goji berries tumble in plump red orbs that squish rebelliously under the pestle. 99 grinds counterclockwise. She instructs, referencing Song Dynasty pharmaceutical standards that still shape Taipei night markets. Crushed seeds stick to your knuckles, each smear glowingly documented in Tang-era medical scrolls as ghost repellent. Cardamom pods crackle like tiny fireworks, releasing a scent Mongol horsemen once carried in their saddlebags. You catch yourself counting ex-wives instead of rotations. 4th grind, 7th, 12th, until her cough snaps you back. Sunglasses for the spleen, she deadpans, tossing in chrysanthemum petals that stain the paste traffic cone orange. Historians still debate whether dragon's breath in old recipes meant actual flame or just really angry ginger. The pestle slips, spattering murky liquid across a bamboo ledger. She tusks at the stain, your clumsy omen joining splotches from 1347 and 1893. Imperial pharmacists added cricket legs for numbness. She muses, pointing to a pressed insect wing in the margin. You fake a sympathetic nod while imagining Beijing apothecaries debating Kardashian-era sleep disorders. 27, 33. Her grinding sinks with the pendulum clock behind you, time itself turning to slurry. The mixture darkens, a primeval tar that smells of burnt caramel and post-battlefield acupuncture. Fox belly resin, she explains, patting the jar like a beloved terrier. You swallow questions about animal ethics, mostly because your tongue now feels upholstered in velvet. At 48 rotations, the exact number prescribed in the formulas, worth 1,000 gold, she adds pine resin. It sizzles pops, releases vapors that Emperor Huizong probably huffed during his disastrous reign. Your vision blurs at the edges, fighting the urge to lick the mortar clean. She smirks, scooping gunk onto a lotus leaf with surgical precision. For your pillow, she lies, or maybe doesn't. 59:63. The counting becomes liturgical. Each thud travels up your arm bones, settling behind your sinuses like elevator music. You recall reading that Southern Song chemists distilled heroin from poppies. Or was that Victorian England? The facts curdle as she adds powdered pearl, its origin story safer, unexamined. 75. 80 night presses against the paper windows, testing the bamboo lattice's resolve. Her silver earring flashes, each swing mirroring your oscillating wakefulness. The paste now resembles congealed starlight, or maybe that's the fatigue talking. when she sneaks in a minced centipede you choose not to see. 97, 98, 99. The final grind resonates through the clinic, startling moths off the ceiling beams. She scrapes the mortar clean with a spoon carved from water buffalo horn, an implement legalists once banned as excessively rustic. Your eyelids surrender first, then your neck, then the memory of your Wi-Fi password, the last coherent thought that sticky substances improve with numerology slides away like ink in the rain. The clay cup presses into your palms, its rough-hewn edges whispering forgotten kiln secrets. Heat bleeds through the ceramic, mapping old merchant routes across your skin. Drink before it crystallizes, she warns, though whether that's metaphor or chemistry remains gloriously unclear. First sip tastes like licking a battery, the acrid tang of overachieving bergamot. Then cinnamon barges in clumsy sweet that smothers the bitterness like a silk debt certificate. Historians still argue whether Song Dynasty tea taxes funded border walls or just really nice brothels. Your tongue stages a revolt, sour patch uprising at the back molars before black honey brokers peace. She nods at your pinched face. Taoists believed the fifth flavor hides between swallows. You fake enlightenment while mentally comparing it to that kombucha phase in 2018. The brew's warmth spreads downward, untying muscle knots you'd named after ex-lovers. Loquat leaf for forgiveness, she adds, as if reading your private inventory of grudges. A rogue orange blossom petal clings to your lip, its delicate bitterness mirroring your last breakup's closing act. Antique porcelain clinks as she refreshes your cup, a pose immortalized in 12 centuries of bad ink paintings. 8 treasures for the 8 winds, she recites, though you definitely count 9 ingredients swirling inside. Maybe the extra's existential dread, gratefully received at this point. Your pinky finger rebelliously uncurls, posture dissolving like sugar in hot Tang Dynasty wine. Third sip unlocks something ancestral, sudden vision of a Qing bureaucrat dunking tea biscuits in despair. She slides over pickled plums without looking, telepathic hospitality, perfected through 30 years of eye-rolling at skeptics. Salt crust crumbles against enamel electric contrast to the caramelized ginseng undertow. They brined these in plum wine during the Taping Rebellion, she says, either historical fact or excellent salesmanship. Fatigue hits like a dropped you-know-me, your spine liquidating into the rattan chair's embrace. Ice pockets form where shoulders once stored tension, or maybe grad school trauma. The cup's residual heat fingerprints your palms, temporary tattoos for the spiritually indecisive. Across the room, moonlight dissects a dust mote into 7 by Jui poems. She smirks at your dazed grin. Yes, it's working. The admission costs her something, pride perhaps, or a bet with yesterday's patient. Your earlobe tastes inexplicably of burnt match heads, a side effect documented in Ming margin scribbles. Breathe through the aftertaste, she orders, as if you'd ever remember how lungs function. When the grandfather clock finally belches 3 a.m., you realize it's been holding its breath too. Last drops cling vesselward, obsidian beads, refusing to join the internal monsoon. They'll linger long after sunrise, sticky sweet reminders that not all voids want filling. She pries the cup away with bamboo tongs, ceramic protesting like an overtaxed parent. Next time she begins, then lets the steam speak instead. It's better this way, promises steep better in silence. Your left pinky twitches, Morse coding surrender to whatever's simmering in the marrow. Somewhere beyond the clinic walls, a night, heron croaks the exact frequency of dopamine receptors cooling. The healer hums off-key, or maybe perfectly tuned to your splanchnic nerves. Doesn't matter now. Your bones have started translating Mandarin duck lullabies into bass clef. Fifth flavor arrives during the 7th yawn, hinting that joy might just be unmetabolized sorrow. Bronze needles catch lamplight, their tips blooming into dull gold as she unfurls the silk meridian chart. 13 blue veins pulse beneath your forearm, each one refusing to match the diagram's elegant pathways. Historians still debate whether acupuncture points were spiritual waypoints, or just really good guesses about nerve clusters. Her thumbnail presses the meat of your thumb. This spot buried 3 emperors. The first needle breaches skin with a citrusy pinch, like biting a tangerine pip hidden in kanji. She rotates it clockwise. 17 grains of rice worth of pressure. Turns out she feels exactly like someone plucking guitar strings inside your elbow. Your trapezius muscle kicks like a startled mule, proof that bodies resent enlightenment. Funan traders carried these needles in bamboo tubes. She murmurs, twisting another into the webbing between knuckles. You recall 7th grade history, that old slide of Song Dynasty surgical kits collecting dust in Taipei's museum. This feels less sterile, more like being propositioned by a very persistent candelabra. Cold metal warms as it sinks deeper, physics-defying trick that always made Qing apothecaries giggle during self-important lectures. Someone strums the invisible lute again, this time along your collarbone. You're holding breath in your liver, she chides, which explains the phantom tequila burn beneath your ribs. The needle at your wrist vibrates, tolling some internal bell that loosens molars you didn't know were clenched. 17th century chronicles claimed acupuncturists could mute opera singers mid-aria, a fact you now find entirely plausible. Her finger traces the pericardium meridian, callus catching on peach fuzz you'll never admit to shaving. Ming princes used gold needles to cure timidity. She offers, sliding filament-thin metal into your earlobe. The resulting endorphin rush smells suspiciously like that lavender sachet your gym teacher hid in his desk. Across the room, the meridian chart silk flutters despite still air, revealing painted pressure points that definitely didn't exist 10 seconds ago. 2 needles over your eyebrow conduct a silent argument, tingles spreading like ink through rice paper. You've read Tang-era scrolls comparing this to dew dispersing mountain fog. But really, it's more like pop rocks in the blood. She taps a spot above your ankle. Ko Yunfang wrote that demons nest here. The puncture feels different, sharp vinegar sting that fades into honey. Maybe the demon's allergic to citrus, or your unresolved trust issues. Her laugh lines deepen as she adjusts a crooked needle. They used melted coins during wartime shortages. You picture a battlefield medic cursing as 5 Wen copper sticks in some general's gluteus. Sensation pools where the needles converge, a liquid courage. That's 70% rice wine metaphor. Your liver tries composing a tercet in classical Chinese, gives up at the caesura. She monitors the metallic choir, ears tilted like a seismograph, charting pleasure tremors. Historians might spar over whether these maps guided healers or poets. But your scapula's humming Li-Bai verses settles the debate. When she withdraws the needles, each extraction leaves a vapor trail of goosebumps. The holes don't bleed, barely even exist. She isn't sentimental about exits. She shrugs, wiping bronze tips on a cloth embroidered with suspiciously phallic ginseng roots. Your arm floats upward, discovering the elbow crease now smells like sun-warmed library paste. The meridian chart rolls itself shut, silk edges curling protectively around its secrets. You're 90% certain it winks before she tucks it into an oxblood lacquer box. Moonlight stripes the floor where needles once gleamed, etching temporary meridians across dusty floorboards. 3 courtyard crickets begin chirping in the exact rhythm of your mitotic cell division. She presses a mugwort poultice over your spleen, alleged location of that time you almost cried on a Zoom call. Breathe into the emptiness, she instructs, as if lungs could inflate metaphysical sinkholes. The grandfather clock hacks up another hour, its gears sticky with neglected maintenance and metaphorical resonance. Your big toe reports anomalous happiness, a development so unexpected it loops back to anxiety. That's the show. The shoji screen rattles as she carries in THE Chinese letter cauldron, another Han-era relic repurposed for tonight's alchemy. Blue flames dance beneath it, despite no visible fuel source. You blame sleep deprivation. Or that third cup of 5-flavor tea, a biofilm of moonflower petals, coats the syrup's surface, each bubble bursting with resinous pops that mimic knuckle cracks. Historians still argue whether Song Dynasty pharmacies used actual lunar flora or just white peonies dyed with squid ink. She stirs counterclockwise with a jade spoon, the motion triggering memories of 7th grade attempts to sabotage a lava lamp. Thick droplets cling to the implement's curve, holding their shape like mercury. In Zero-G Liu, Hui wrote of elixirs that taste like unanswered questions. She muses, dipping the spoon toward your brow. The syrup leaves an ice wisp trail above your third eye frost crystallizing in a Fibonacci spiral. Your frontal lobe registers the scent as purple synesthesia kicking in like a dial-up modem, connecting to ambient mysticism. Records claim imperial concubines drank moonflower brews to forget stillborn children. But this feels less like erasure, more like archived files moved to a defragmented hard drive. The vapor condenses into liquid doubt, trickling down your nasal bridge, salted caramel, and existential dread. Breathe through the eyelids, she instructs, which shouldn't work until you try it. Ribbons of steam curl upward, each strand tickling photoreceptors into reporting auroras. Someone hung a disco ball in your pineal gland. Or maybe that's just the 15th century zirconium, alloy cauldron refracting moonlight. Your orthodontist never mentioned this side effect of overachieving sinuses. She peels the cracked lid off, its rust patterns mapping the exact anxiety rash you had during college finals. The brew inside glows like reactor coolant. If Chernobyl were run by particularly artsy Buddhists. Archaeologists found similar residues in Tang tomb flasks, presumably to guide dead merchants through underworld customs. A rogue bubble bursts, spattering your cheek with resin that solidifies into a temporary beauty mark, perfect for your upcoming non-existent gala. Her thumbnail scrapes off the droplet, leaving skin smoother than a Song Celadon vase. Moonflowers only release nectar under Gamma Draconis, she remarks, sprinkling dried starling bones into the cauldron. The dubious ornithology checks out. Your cousin's parrot once recited pi to 9 digits during a solar eclipse. The mixture thickens into something between tar and truffle honey. AMB/RTM viscosity rating. Suspiciously sentient. You inhale a thread of musk. Recognize it as last Tuesday's regret about replying all to HR. The elixir glugs like a swamp digesting secrets. Each bubble collapse, sounding faintly apologetic. Ming manuals warned against overheating lunar compounds. Apparently, they start composing passive-aggressive haikus at 82 degrees C. She monitors the temperature with her palm, calluses immune to both heat and metaphorical subtext. When she ladles the syrup into a snail shell cup, it climbs the sides like a thirsty invertebrate. First sip floods your mouth with the tang of unplayed arcade tokens, followed by the saccharine afterglow of copyright-free lullabies. Your uvula does jazz hands, which would concern you more if the room hadn't just gainished into a Vermeer painting. 8% of moonflower varietals induce temporary anosmia. She warns, right as you lose the ability to smell your own poor life choices. The loss feels suspiciously specific, like God muted your emotional spam folder. She paints a glyph on your sternum with the dregs, sticky residue, forming a non-Euclidean heart monitor. Cardiologists would quit on the spot, but your pulse now sinks to the cauldron's simmering cadence. Through the steam, her silhouette blurs into a double exposure of healer and hungry ghost. You recall a fringe theory about song apothecaries channeling ancestral spirits through Ferris cookware. The CAULDRONS Chinese letter symbol glowing brighter as shadows lengthen. A tendril of syrup stretches upward, forming a Chinese letter compass needle that points to your left kidney's unresolved trauma. She snaps her fingers. The liquid recoils like a chastised hound. Best not to map your meridians while they're tipsy, she advises, mopping spills with a cloth embroidered with suspiciously accurate zodiac smut. The cauldron's flame dims, its blue fading to the washed-out denim of overdrafted bank accounts. You realize the entire process has mirrored your last relationship. Starts with idealistic spark, ends with sticky residue and a light migraine. As the elixir settles, your joints unlock in the exact sequence of a Qing Dynasty puzzle box. The grandfather clock censors another hour, its pendulum swinging between sanctimony and sleep deprivation. She scrapes the cauldron clean with a tortoiseshell comb, humming a melody that rewrites your ribcage's stress fractures into haiku intermissions. Your third eye itches, which either means spiritual awakening or an ill-advised allergy to Song-era phytochemistry. She slaps a dried lotus leaf over the area, balm and punishment in one gesture. Through the leaf's vasculature, moonlight projects a ghostly flowchart titled Repentance Options, RATED, by Energetic ROI. You'll stick with Plan C, the one involving strategic napping and limited accountability. The cauldron cools into a sculpture of your sleep debt, aggressively baroque, with gilt filigree. She kicks it under the table, where all failed experiments go right next to your 2023 gym membership resolutions. Dawn's first fingers creep through the courtyard gate, turning the remaining syrup into liquid topaz, weeping over THE Chinese letter rim. 3 medicinal midges dive bomb the puddle, their buzz harmonizing with the clinic's central mystery. How a place so infused with weirdness smells exactly like grandma's linen closet. The courtyard air still hums with spent moonflower residue, your earlobes tingling like they've been licked by static-charged kittens. A bamboo cage sways near the gate, its woven gaps revealing flickers of russet feathers. 3 descending notes pierce the syrup-thick silence, a sound so precise it could calibrate metronomes. You strain toward the trill, neck muscles protesting like overworked violin strings. The nightingale pivots on its perch, one obsidian, eye judging your circadian crimes. Historians note Song Dynasty healers kept songbirds to regulate patience. Qi, though nobody mentions their accusatory side-eye. Its next arpeggio syncs with your carotid pulse, 2 rhythms becoming conjoined twins, sharing a morbid playlist. They mimic whatever slows your heart. The healer murmurs, polishing a jade tuning fork against her hemp sleeve. Her knuckle flicks the instrument. The note hangs between you like a riddle. The bird's response copies the vibration, then transposes it into a minor key. Your aorta sheepishly follows suit. Cardiologists would revoke its license for this level of emo behavior. She tosses a dried caterpillar into the cage. Reward or bribery remains unclear. Emperor Huizong's musicians trained them using palace banquet leftovers, a union contract for the ages. The tidbit strains credibility, much like your cousin's NFT-themed detox tea. Another warble ripples out, this time mirroring the exact cadence of your Uber driver's breakup speech last Tuesday. Coincidence or avian psychotherapy? Your thumbs rub worry grooves into the bench, cedar resins mingling with nervous sweat. The nightingale puffs its breast, launching into a melody your babysitter hummed during 90s blackouts. Historians still argue whether these feathery therapists eased suffering or simply gave patients something to blame for emotional leakage. The song liquefies memories of dental surgeries and unanswered texts, draining them into yesterday's storm gutters. She leans closer, her shadow stretching like taffy across the flagstones. They'll stop singing if you cling to outrage. The warning smells of peeled lychees and ultimatums. You exhale through your nose, an amateur mistake, and the bird squawks the rhythm back twice as fast. Moonlight glazes the cage bar's mercury silver, their geometry, mapping the strictures you've been drafting for future regrets. The healer draws a 5-note sequence in the dirt. The nightingale regurgitates it with perfect pitch. Your lungs hesitate, then sink to the pattern like parolees to ankle monitors. Air moves differently now, less theft, more borrowed, with intent to return. A street vendor's shout breaches the courtyard wall. The bird instantly converts it into a plain-song hymn. Your knees recognize the melody as Bach's cello, Suite No. 1, or possibly the jingle from a banned antidepressants commercial. The healer frowns at this cultural mashup, her disapproval priced into your imaginary copay. When the song shifts to mimic bamboo wind chimes, your vertebrae unclench in rolling surrender. You taste peppermint despite no candy being present. Another side effect, like that time kombucha rewired your gag reflex. The nightingale hops to a higher perch, trilling a scale that erases 3 a.m. email drafts from your muscle memory. She studies your crumbling defenses, each note sandblasting another justification. These birds hate echolalia. Try humming something original. The challenge oozes therapist office vibes, $250 per hour, payable in repressed childhood memories. You attempt a sea shanty. The bird counters with Gregorian chant. Fair enough. Distant temple bells toll the thin hour, their vibrations kneading the courtyard into tonal dough. The nightingale absorbs each gong, filters it through some feathery DAW software, outputs a lullaby that smells of scanned homework and sunscreen. Your heartbeat drags its feet now, a teenager refusing to leave a Dave and Buster's. 11th century midwives used their eggs in fertility teas, she mentions, apropos of nothing. The image of scrambled nightingale omelets short circuits your meditative progress. The bird fluffs its feathers, avian middle finger fully deployed. As first light bleeds through the east wall, the song shifts to something resembling a parental voicemail's hold music. Your fingers relax around the bench's edge, palms printing sweat maps of Tasmania on the cedar. She flicks a caterpillar into your lap, nod, indicating this counts as breakfast. The final trill lingers like foundation under cheap lipstick, an imperfect cover for structural doubts. You name the half-remembered tune, some anime outro from your DeviantArt phase. Her smile arrives slow, a shoreline revealing lost shipwrecks of approval. They really do stop singing when readiness clicks into place, the silence swelling louder than any nocturne. You half expect a certificate, or at least a Spotify playlist. What remains is just a bird preening in dawn's glare, and the haunting certitude that your panic attacks might enjoy clave rhythms. The healer's fingers brush your knee-old cartilage creaks like a shipwrecked mast. She unspools linen strips from a lacquer box, their threads stained ochre by mugwort oil. 9th century Taoist nuns pioneered this treatment. Scrolls describe battlefield generals weeping into their bandages like colicky infants. You inhale bitter herb vapors, memory's surface of a college soccer foul, a skateboard wipeout, that one ill-advised parkour phase. The oil's heat seeps deeper, muscles unknotting like surrendered shoelaces. Historians still argue whether Empress Liu's legendary limp stemmed from war wounds or an overenthusiastic tango with concubines. Layers tighten around your joint. Each wrap whispers battlefield dirges. Argued against conscription, my great-grandmother. She mutters, knuckles pressing a pressure point linked to 7th century cavalry strategies. Pain blooms phosphorescent, a flashbang reminder of every misstep since puberty. Your pulse flutters against the bindings, trapped sparrow with identity issues. She dips her thumb in a clay jar, smears pine resin salve, where the scar resembles a warped laugh line. 10th century medics claimed spider silk stitches could close wounds faster, provided you charmed the arachnid first. The absurdity almost outweighs the throbbing. Almost. A hot stone appears on your kneecap, its surface etched with unreadable curses or shopping lists. You're half convinced it's relaying Morse code via capillary action. This one survived the sacking of Byinging, she notes, as if explaining a thrift store teapot. Heat radiates up your iliotibial band, melting frozen rage from a 2012 traffic jam. Her palm hovers centimeters above the scar, skin buzzing like a theremin at a laser tag arena. Medieval scholars swore emperors stored grudges in their marrow, exactly the vibe your femur's projecting. The mugwort fumes spike. Suddenly you're 9 years old, hiding a sprained ankle to avoid missing trick-or-treating. Fabric tightens further your patella, now a walnut in God's nutcracker. Singing wounds heal faster, she recites, tone suggesting it's your turn to audition. The only melody surfacing. Automatic warranty renewal, hold music. Classy. Warmth pools where cartilage resembles chewed taffy. Memories decompose into wordless static. A crack echoes through the courtyard. Turns out your spine just reinvented dubstep. The healer nods sagely, as if this proves her entire philosophy. Linen absorbs ancient sweat and metaphoric baggage layers, turning translucent with spiritual spillage. She ties the final knot with a widow's peak flourish, the pressure now hugging rather than strangling. Your knee's betrayal in last year's hiking trip fades to credits roll insignificance. The stone's heat retreats, leaving your joint microwaved to medium rare perfection. She rubs leftover salve into her elbow because self-care's a scam unless it's tax deductible. You half expect an invoice itemizing each unraveled trauma. Dawn bleeds through rice paper windows, exposing the bandages, soil constellations. That persistent ache from a New Year's Eve tumble downstairs. Currently MIA. Your legs test the floorboards, muscles purring like retrofitted lawnmower engines. She flicks a crumb from the lacquer box. Your knee's sob story already archived under resolved pending relapse. The courtyard seems inclined to agree magpies, replacing yesterday's judgmental nightingales. You exit with a gait suggesting functional tendons, and the grim understanding that emotional baggage has kinesthetic interest rates. The healer guides you to a low table, its bamboo slats worn smooth by centuries of divination appointments. Turtle shell fragments clatter from her palm, their shadows dancing like indecisive tarot cards. Song Dynasty rulers used these for state decisions, from crop rotations to executing inconvenient uncles. One fragment glows where lamplight hits ancient incision, marks the character for storm pulsing faintly. Some scholars think interpreters got drunk first. She muses, tracing a crack shaped like a dandelion gone to seed. Alcohol improved their vision for celestial messages or lowered standards. Your knuckle brushes the warmed shell. It thrums like a sitcom laugh track at inappropriate moments. She tosses the pieces again, bone against bamboo, creating a rhythmic lullaby. A new constellation forms, two cracks intersecting at what might be a hipster beard's acute angle. Historians still argue whether the fissures held meaning or just proved royals enjoyed expensive randomizers. The fragment's glow intensifies, now showing the symbol for gate beneath patina stains. Rain clouds retreat west, she intones, though the arrangement reminds you of a failed IKEA diagram. Warm resin smoke curls around your ankles. Time folds like discounted origami paper. That fender bender from monsoon season surfaces. The sting of insurance premium hikes. Your exes smirk through windshield wiper arcs. A fingernail taps the storm glyph, its radiance dimming like a guilt-tripping nightlight. 6th century manuals recommended whispering questions to bones before tossing. but she just raised an eyebrow at yours. The remaining fragments spell something between reunion and intestinal distress, ancient script being notoriously grammar adjacent. You recall a museum plaque insisting oracle bones were Bronze Age mood rings. The comparison holds as she rotates a shard like a safe cracker. Lamplight catches an inscription about grain harvests and what might be an early complaint regarding goat rental scams. Her sigh suggests the bones just roasted your life choices in classical Chinese. The conflict isn't gone, she corrects, eyeing a crack that definitely resembles your last dating app profile pic. But its fangs dull when faced. Your lungs inflate like crime scene chalk outlines, ribs expanding into spaces claimed by 3 years of clenched breath. One fragment sticks to your damp palm, temporarily bonding via poor life decisions. The healer pries it loose with a mortician's tact, revealing the character for bridge beneath coffee-colored oxidation. Tang Dynasty logistics officers consulted bones before river crossings, a practice discontinued after 42 consecutive drownings. She rubs bone dust between thumb and forefinger, the gesture of someone testing. Produce ripeness. You've been living in the thunder's echo, she diagnoses, as a night breeze flips a fragment to show stillness in seal script. The courtyard's plum blossoms choose this moment to snow, petals catching in your hair like confetti from a parade you slept through. The final reading settles, cracks aligning into something between a sine wave and resignation. Your student loan debt remains, but suddenly feels archived rather than actively hunting you. She sweeps the fragments into a silk pouch, their clicks muttering about mundane concerns like laundry and eclipses. Lamplight gilds the remaining glyphs, their glow fading like a VPN connection. You taste salt, realize tears are tracking through 3 layers of emotional SPF. The healer says nothing, offering roasted watermelon seeds from a dish that survived Genghis Khan's snack raids. When the last shell fragment clicks against pottery, your shoulders unknot themselves. That pending lawsuit fear, downgraded to background elevator jazz. She flicks a petal off the mat, the storm character dimming to dormancy. Dawn's first magpies arrive to critique the proceedings, their verdict sounding suspiciously like a Spotify ad jingle. You exit with lighter ribs and the unsettling gift of expecting slightly less catastrophe. The bones clatter softly in their pouch, still debating whether to mention next Thursday's misplaced keys. The courtyard's night air clings, thick as used bathwater, until pine resin sparks in a Chinese letter brazier. Feathers whisk smoke around your silhouette. They're softer than tax audits, but just as thorough. Song Dynasty healers swore by pitch-black pine tar for purging malicious qi and covering up questionable hippofat ointment fumes. A mainstream manual from 1123 CE details 7 cleansing strokes. Yours gets an impatient 8. Smoke curls into shapes the drunk part of your brain names: angry squid, rejected cursive font, Beyoncé's left eyelash. The healer hums a tune band during the Yuan dynasty, political dissent, sold as folk ditty. Each feather pass leaves soap bubble iridescence in its wake. Or maybe that's sleep deprivation's new aesthetic phase. Historians still argue whether Song Dynasty smoke cleanses aimed to purify souls, or just mask unwashed scholars' robes. Resin pops a Vesuvius of sparks. One lodges in your hair like a tiny rebellion. Every inhale tastes of campfire ghosts and stolen golf course divots. Your pores exhale 3 years of open-plan office air, microwaved fish lingering at the edges. 6th century mystics believed pine soot could trap whispered secrets. This batch definitely archives your gym membership guilt. The healer fans faster smoke, devolving from Zen calligraphy to toddler crayon scribbles. In Guangzhou, they burned rhino horn with pine. She offers her tone, suggesting you couldn't afford that version. A nightjar's cry pierces the haze, its rhythm syncing with the feather swipes. You recall Venetian traders describing Chinese smoke rituals as perfumed witchcraft, then buying bulk resin anyway. Smoke thickens until your hands vanish. Pawn takes queen in a phantom chess match. Your kneecaps reminisce about existing separately from hips, a sensation last felt during Obama's first term. For 17 breaths, you're just a nervous system wearing fog, internethistory, crash course optional. The healer's sleeve brushes your arm, linen textured, like a well-loved library book. Midnight makes bodies forgetful. She murmurs, ash settling into your collarbones like punctuation. Tang aristocrats added ground jade to the resin, a flex where wellness meant taxable decadence. You try naming what's lifting, performance review dread. That X's favorite band's greatest hits, mortgage rates. Smoke mutes each memory into origami shapes, folded, creased, left on a bus seat. Suddenly, cool air. The brazier's glow shrinks to a pilot light simmer. Your silhouette sharpens darker at the edges like oversteeped tea. Cleansing, she repeats, catching a smoke tendril in her palm. Just borrowing the night's eyes. Moonlight returns in pieces, your shadow now holding 5 fewer regrets. Pine tar's bite lingers, it's part barbecue, part emergency room. Wholly unconcerned with your comfort, the healer extinguishes coals. With rice wine, sizzles morph into drunken frog croaks. A half-whispered proverb gets lost in the steam. Something about bridges and impatient badgers. When the last plume fades, your skin hums like a dial-up modem connecting. Damp grass squelches underfoot, protesting each step toward the next unknown ritual. Somewhere beyond the gate, a lute string snaps, its twang echoing the smoke's final exhale. The lacquer box clicks open, revealing a ginseng root mummified in hoarfrost. Its legs sprawl like a grumpy starfish, arms crossed against 12 decades underground. Song Dynasty pharmacies prized 9-year-old roots as earth warriors. This specimen looks ready to unionize. Found near Emperor Zhenzong's secondary tomb, the healer says, tracing its shriveled face with a chipped nail. Cold radiates through the table. Your palm sticks to air that tastes of freezer burn. She pours hot water over the root, thawing a scream-shaped mouth in its torso. Scholars still debate whether ancient pharmacists buried ginseng with nobles as medicine for the afterlife, or snack taxes for underworld bureaucrats. The root's limbs curl into something neighborly, now resembling your coworker Dave mid-Zoom apology. 9, 11, 16 growth rings. She counts, though math feels criminal here. Frost melts into your teacup, swirling like airport lounge whiskey. Song Dynasty texts warned against harvesting human form roots without bamboo tongs, claiming they'd scamper off to merry radishes. You half expect this one to demand a prenup. The first sip hits like over-caffeinated deja vu. Bitter, musky, with a finish of locker room foot wrap. Patience grows what rushing breaks. The healer intones, shaving root flesh with a moon-shaped blade. Each sliver spirals downward, sinking slower than your last promotion request. Northern Way herbalists believed frosted ginseng could resurrect drowned lovers, provided you sang off-key while digging. Your tongue maps terraced ridges left by medicinal compounds, crumbling empire borders redrawn as taste buds. A warmth spreads where Starbucks lattes once pooled, humming in forgotten molars. The healer tucks the root back into its box, whispering what sounds like a grocery list in classical Chinese. Twilight pries through shutters, etching the ginseng's shadow into the table. It gestures with bark nubs toward the courtyard, conducting a symphony only frost can hear. Historians still argue whether Song Dynasty dancing roots were performance art or mold hallucinations. You're leaning toward both. Steam rises from your cup, sketching a stick figure epic across the ceiling. Again at dawn, she orders, sealing the box with black beeswax. RESIN Chinese letter, hangs thick, part bonfire, part dental appointment. Your fingertips tingle with phantom roots, mapping futures where patience isn't just what happens to other people. The last sip coats your throat in glacial optimism, a snowpack destined to become someone else's spring. Somewhere beyond the clinic, a hedgehog sneezes, and the night folds itself into quarters, waiting. The looms start before your eyes open wooden clacks, echoing mortar and pestle rhythms from hours prior. Across the courtyard, a widow works beneath paper windows, lit like lantern slides. Her shuttle flies left, right, left, weaving fabric so sheer it drinks moonlight. Song Dynasty silk workshops perfected 6-petal looms, mechanical marvels that could outweave a NY Chinese letter, trying to claim their operators. She hums a tune between teeth, holding bronze pins, a warped rendition of Green Waste from Emperor Taizong's court. Your thoughts snag on the melody, unravel, rethread themselves into the clatter. Historians still argue whether night weaving was prescribed as insomnia therapy or just a corporate tax dodge for 24/7 textile mills. The widow's sleeves bear 9 embroidered cranes, an imperial motif band after the Jinkang incident. Yet here they flap freely in sweat-damp silk. Each throw of the shuttle ticks like a metronome dosing reality. Warp threads gleam sized with gelatin from donkey hides, according to Southern song manufacturing standards. You try counting them: 36, 72. Then lose track somewhere between yawning and noticing the widow's missing pinky. Northern folklore claims weavers sacrifice digits to silence envious loom demons. The woman flexes her nubbed hand like a veteran pianist. Best hemp was grown in Hangzhou prefectures, she mutters, though you didn't ask. The fabric whispers as she beats the weft, a sound like librarians shushing through centuries. 3 lanterns gutter out, replaced by glowworms squatting in empty ink pots. Your muscles sink to the rhythm, left trapezius tightening with each shuttle pass, right calf unknotting as pedals squeak. A dropped pin punctures the silence. The widow curses in a dialect packed with ancient obscenities. 9th century tax records show weaving villages paid levies in swear words after silkworm blights. But scholars debate whether this was literal or just early performance art. Her spool rolls under your bench, wrapping around your ankle like a silkworm's final request. Don't, she barks as you reach to help, plunging hands into the warp instead. Threads part around her fingers, green, gold, indigo, as if parting a mechanized river. The pattern emerges carp swimming upstream through lotus flowers, their scales resolving into characters for resilience and unpaid overtime. Night air thickens with starch smell and the acidic tang of dye vats. Your 3rd grade art class trauma resurfacing. You drift into a half dream of Neolithic basket weaving tutorials, YouTube tutorials narrated by gravel-voiced grandmothers. The widow's loom transmutes into a mammoth ribcage, shuttle darting between bones like a hyperactive spleen. Song Dynasty poets likened sleepless nights to tangled skeins. Right now you're the human equivalent of a yarn sale bin. Midnight rain slicks the courtyard stones, turning them into temporary inkstones. The widow adjusts her tension rods, a perfected shrug worn smooth by decades of petty sabotage from lesser looms. Oil from her hair stains the beam above. Decades of midnight shifts fossilized into a keratin patina. Silk Road merchants told travelers that listening to weavers guaranteed sweet dreams, though they omitted the part about permanent tinnitus. Her final pattern reveals itself under dawn's first smear, a labyrinth with no exit center, occupied by a smiling frog holding a cleaver. The shuttle clatters to rest, its echo wearing a path through your medulla oblongata. You've somehow memorized 8 yards of textile instructions, your fingers twitching with muscle memory you didn't earn. come back when your insomnia matures, she grumbles, snipping threads with teeth filed flat. The cranes on her sleeves flap once, a trick of tired eyes, before settling into embroidered compliance. Outside, a street hawker begins his morning cry, fresh reed mats, discount nightmares, acceptable regrets, but the loom's ghost still stitches your thoughts into something almost peaceful. The widow's woven peace unravels as the healer beckons you deeper into her workroom. Crow feathers dangling from ceiling hooks like hanged philosophers. Her inkstone holds no pigment, just dried blood scraped from bronze lancets and nightsil jars. 9th century medical texts prescribed writing healing charms with rooster's blood. But she unsheathes a black quill plucked from something far cleverer. Troubled water needs bridges, she announces, snapping a feather shaft over a candle till it smokes. Historians still argue whether song doctors used corvid parts for actual medicine or just enjoyed scaring hypochondriacs into wellness. Your thumb throbs in anticipation. Blame those childhood flu treatments involving leeches and suspiciously timed parental lectures. Needle prick blooms scarlet on your fingertip, metallic tang, overpowering the room's usual ginger root musk. She dips the crow quill with ceremonial gravitas, then pauses. No wincing, she warns, though you haven't moved. Northern merchants once peddled crow-signed scrolls as cure-alls, never admitting they just splattered ink while shooing birds off cargo carts. Her strokes on rice paper sound like boots crushing autumn leaves, each curving character darker than regret. 16th century Taoist debates simmer in the margins. Are blood charms activation or absolution? The healer answers by blowing across damp ink, your pulse sinking to its evaporation rate. Charms for doubts, doubts about charms. Either way, she's billing by the hour. Flames gutter in a brazier as she folds the paper into jagged geometry. A blood origami swallow mid-swoop. Burn this when shadows outnumber candles, she instructs, fingernails tapping the exact moment you recall cremating your middle school diary. Crows held funeral rites for dead kin, according to song naturalists, though none mentioned RSVP requirements. You pocket the charm, its edges pricking your palm through silk. The healer wipes her blade on a rag embroidered with laughing skulls, your blood joining decades of patrons, essence in the stain. Forensic textile scholars could probably diagnose half the town from that cloth. Her smirk suggests she knows. Night birds screech beyond paper windows, auditioning for tomorrow's ominous portents. The healer steeps chrysanthemum stems in your leftover blood, offers a sip. Recycling, she clarifies, though you're more concerned about the feather still stuck in her hair. 17th century almanacs listed quillin coiffure as a sign of demonic courtship. Truth or slander depends on who's selling the exorcism. Cinders spit warnings against the brazier's rim, each hiss a bored stagehand, cueing celestial drama. You trace the charm's contours through fabric, its angles pressing promises into your lifeline. The healer hums a lullaby about drowned calligraphers, their ink forever staining river currents. Your eyelids droop not from fatigue, but the gravitational pull of metaphors stretched too thin. She extinguishes candles with precisely spaced breaths, 1, 4, 7, until darkness becomes its own diagnosis. Your retina ghosts paint her silhouette larger, wiser, happier to take your cash. A final crow shrieks outside. You realize none have flown over tonight. Maybe they're all busy drafting quill-based complaints about inconsistent mythological portrayals. Go, she yawns, already scribbling tomorrow's first charm in the gloom. The paper feels heavier now, loaded ink, plotting its eventual pyre. You step into courtyard shadows, thumbprint pulsing in time to the widow's distant loom. Somewhere beyond the gate, a feather drifts down to seal the night's invoice. Moonlight glints off the healer's new toy, a mortar carved from a single freshwater pearl. She crushes its smaller cousins with a pestle that moans like an overworked donkey. Seaborn calcium carbonate, she mutters, though you suspect she just likes saying carbonate with that alchemist purr. The powder shines like crushed galaxies, or maybe that's the sleep deprivation talking. A jade vial appears, its contents sloshing as she unstoppers it with her teeth. Tears gathered during spring rains, she explains. Historians still debate whether song physicians archived emotions via bodily fluids, or just had weird trophy cabinets. You recall collecting dewdrops for a childhood crush once. She ghosted you after the Malaroot incident. The paste hits your sternum cold, yet warms upon contact like shame dissolving. Her thumb circles counterclockwise, precisely 3 degrees off true north. 7th century court records mention concubines using pearl dust to erase freckles, and possibly poisoning rivals with bad batches. You ask if this is safe. She licks residue off her palm. Now we'll both find out. Rainwater tears trickle down the vial's neck, leaving phosphorescent trails. You count them 37, 38, until she bats your hand away. Numbers muddle the ritual. She scolds. Northern Way tombs contained oyster shells, inscribed with lovers' quarrels. Archaeologists can't decide if they're recipes or breakup notes. The healer's smirk suggests she'd charge extra to translate yours. Something prickles behind your eyes, not tears, but the ghost of a sneeze from yesterday's pine smoke cleansing. She seizes the moment, capturing the half sneeze in a glass tube. Imperfections make better glue, she insists, though you've seen pottery mends that argue otherwise. The paste thickens to nacreous cement. Your chest, hairs now officially doomed. Crickets outside sync their chirps to her grinding rhythm. One gets cocky and improvises. You strain to hear the widow's loom. Its absence feels louder than silk unraveling. The healer hums a scale, D to B flat, that vibrates the pearl dust into levitating swirls. 8th century music therapists prescribed specific notes for organ alignment. Patience mostly just got tinnitus. She slathers a final layer across your collarbones. The weight of it pulls your shoulders into proper posture. Pearls remember being liquid, she whispers. Your skin tightens, tingles, tries to calcify. A moth drifts into the mortar. Its wings become instant fossil art. You make a mental note to check for gemstone bedbugs later. Dawn's first light bleeds through the paper door. The healer examines her handiwork with a jeweler's squint. Centuries of beauticians swore sleeping in pearl powder prevented wrinkles, which explains why all their statues look pissed. The paste cracks as you breathe, flecks drifting downward. L-I-K-E Chinese letter snow. One lands on your tongue, tastes like oyster regrets and middle school detention. She pronounces you temporarily sealed and hands a bronze mirror. Your reflection glows like a poorly wrapped dumpling, dignity sacrificed at the altar of self-care. Somewhere, a rooster crows, or maybe a customer disputes their bill. The healer flicks a speck off your nose. Don't shower until the moon's full. You glance at the calendar. 7 days of crust feels excessive. Your shirt crackles as you move, pearls migrating south to form an impromptu codpiece. The healer stifles a laugh behind ink-stained fingers. Song Dynasty dandies actually wore pearl-encrusted trousers, chafing being the price of metaphysics. You exit like a walking macadamia nut, the courtyard sparrows eyeing you with speculative greed. Rain begins, a light drizzle that slicks the pearls into a second skin. Each drop raises steam where it lands, your chest becoming a miniature tea ceremony. The widow's loom starts up again, threads singing through bamboo like they've got opinions about your new accessory. You consider peeling it off, but the healer's still watching from her doorway, humming that damned B-flat. Mollusk musk follows you past the gate, fermented and faintly judgmental. A passing farmer eyes your glittering décolletage, makes the sign against river spirits. Your next bath's going to require industrial solvents and possibly an exorcist. The pearls itch, but isn't enlightenment supposed to? The night guard's ivory pieces gleam like stolen moonlight, each pawn a miniature soldier at attention. You slump onto the worn stone bench, its chill cutting through your pearl-crusted robe. He nudges the black general forward without looking up, his silence as heavy as the city gates. Historians still argue whether Song strategists used chess to plan battles or just to avoid their wives. The guards first capture tastes of bitter melon, then unfolds into licorice's earthy sweetness. Your stolen pawn dissolves under your tongue. 7 losses tonight will cost you a week's sleep. A moth kamikazes into the lantern. Its shadow dances across the board like a third player. He takes your chariot with a bishop's diagonal swipe. 10th century manuals called that move the widow's vengeance. Your remaining castle quivers. You have expected to dig moats in self-defense. The guard's nail taps the hourglass. Sand hisses louder than your compromised breathing. Northern song elites, buried chess sets to honor dead champions. Dig sites, keep yielding pieces in left hands. You mirror his finger placement. Calloused skin catches on a rook's jagged crown. Checkmate arrives. As temple bells toll his victory, scent melds sweat and star anise. He resets the board with ritual precision. Knights facing east for dawn's advantage. Night air thickens. With unasked questions, you pocket a licorice root scrap as concession prize. Your earlobe detects the shift first, pearl dust hardening into an audible crust. The guard gestures toward your crumbling collarbone. A silent offer to bet next month's mooncake ration. Historians would kill for this tableau. Strategist versus glittering disaster. In the hour of the ox, pieces click into starting positions. The ninth game begins before you consent. His opening gambit mirrors imperial border formations. All discipline and no mercy. Your mouth shapes the word rematch, emerges as a pearl-dusted sneeze that upends 3 infantrymen. He freezes, then belly laughs with a rumble that shakes persimmons from the courtyard tree. The sound wraps around your ribs like a smuggled comfort. Dawn stains the horizon puce. The guard writes I owe you 7 games in dust before disappearing. The guard's lingering laughter dissolves into birdsong. You pocket a persimmon seed still warm from his palm. Dawn's first rays reveal her waiting by the kiln terracotta jar, cradled like a child's skull. Breathe last year's summer, she commands, cracked ceramic presses into your cheekbones. Dried jasmine crackles like old love letters. Its scent floods your sinuses with stolen sunlight. Historians tally over 300 herbs stored in song clinics. None distilled joy better than these sun-rotted petals. Your 10th exhale tastes of Beijing honey, the 4th summer, after Emperor Zhenzong's controversial tea tax hike. She counts through your pores. Her fingertip taps pulse points in mocking rhythm. 26, 30, 33 numbers metastasize into nonsense syllables. That gaudy Ming vase at the Louvre, its ancestor, was this humble jar thrown by a potter who mixed clay with peach blossom wine. Your lungs balloon dangerously. She pinches your nose until stars bloom behind molars. Small sips, she chides. Greed drowns faster than sorrow. The jar's rim leaves a perfect ring on your forehead, a third eye stamped in baked earth. 14th century hustlers sold jasmine prophecies, scammers huffing petals to feign divination trances. You're midway to believing their hustle memories surfacing in floral bursts. Stolen lychees at 13. A drowned silk slipper, 39. She lies. Muscles melt like candle wax over a flame, left foot fusing with flagstones. Historians still argue whether floral inhalants treated depression or just made patients too drowsy to complain. Your tongue lolls. A discordant chuckle startles a gecko off the kiln. 42 breaths to unspool a soul. She murmurs, jade comb untangling your sweat-clumped hair. The math feels suspicious. 42 being the exact number of steps to the bathhouse. Coincidence? Unlikely. Song physicians loved their numerology more than their patients. Clay cools against your palms, the jar, now an empty cocoon. Residual pollen glitters on your collar, kintsugi, for the sleep-deprived. She scrapes spent petals onto coals. Their final fragrance smells suspiciously like apricot jam. Nightshade nods from the garden. Its leaves curl in judgment. 12 jars line the shelf, each labeled with lunar phases and questionable characters. Your knees debate mutiny. She steadies you with a grip that crackles like rice paper. The numbers. You slur, words dissolving into a petal-strewn yawn. Her snort could wither bamboo. Men who count breaths miss the sin beneath the skin. A bee drifts in, weaves drunken circles around your honeyed exhale. Mooncake crumbs cling to your sleeve, last week's rations, now communion wafers. She flicks them toward sparrows, tiny thieves baptized in dawn light. Historians would trade their inkstones to witness this, a healer drugging clients with horticultural nostalgia. The world tilts, floor tiles ripple like lotus leaves on a pond. Your reflection shimmers in the jar's void, features blurring into a smudged ink painting. She wipes your brow, sleeve transferring charcoal streaks that smell of ninth-month bonfires. One sparrow crashes into the incense tray. Its wings thrash in powdered sandalwood. You giggle through nosebleed-worthy imagery. Avian pilgrims seeking enlightenment through kamikaze aromatherapy. Her sigh suggests you're not the first patient to crack here. Sunlight reaches the porcelain sink. Glazed carp swim across its bowl. Water sluices over your hands, cold enough to ache, pure enough to shame the West Lake. Breathe without counting. She orders, voice softer than the jasmine's exit. Dried petals cling to your lashes, each blink a flickbook sunset. Somewhere, the guard reshuffles his ivory army. Somewhere, a widow's loom unravels yesterday's regrets. You float between them, anchorless, weightless, guilty of nothing but surrender. The kiln exhales a final blue flame. Its death rattle sinks with your eyelids fall. Her slippered feet retreat, leaving imprints that glow like summer's last fireflies. Numbers crumble, you inhale and forget to stop. Heat radiates upward through flagstones. Your bare soles register the kiln's heartbeat 3 floors below. Celadon glazes require 12-hour firings, a fact Song bureaucrats documented with monastic dedication. The stones thrum like a bass string plucked by giants. Or maybe that's the jasmine still swimming behind your knees. You press palms to the floor. Its warmth mimics living flesh. 3 centuries from now, scholars will mimic this pose over radiator grates, chasing the ghost of Song-era underfloor heating. A dull clang shivers upward, some apprentice adjusting THE Chinese letter vents. Your spine straightens reflexively, vertebrae stacking like ritual bronze coins. The healer's shadow drapes across your thighs. She slides a lacquer tray into view. 7 teacups stand inverted, their unglazed bellies exposed like turtle shells. Listen for the ping, she murmurs, tapping one with an iron rod. The sound vibrates your molars. A single high note, sustained longer than courtly etiquette permits, crackles spiderweb across the cup's surface, celadon settling into its immortal form. Historians still argue whether kiln acoustics treated bone ailments or just gave potters an excuse to bill aristocrats extra. You snort, earning a side-eye sharp enough to slice ginger root. Your scapula's click mirrors that fissure. She lies, pointing to a hairline fracture in the glaze. Cold air slithers through the courtyard, kissing sweat-damp neck hairs. 13 nested kilns once operated near Hangzhou, their chimneys puffing like courtesans' opium pipes. You trace a cup's rim, its edge worn smooth as a Buddha's earlobe. The healer smirks. They overfired that batch. Clay shrunk faster than a eunuch's. Another clang drowns her joke. The kilns roar, cresting like a tidal bore. Flagstones judder beneath you, loose threads on your hem tremble in unison. Your hips sink lower, pulled by stone's memory of molten rock. 18th century Europeans would kill for this radiant heat, assuming they survived the accompanying earthquakes. She presses a cooled cup to your sternum. Its curve fits the hollow like a reliquary. Chi moves as clay shrinks. The analogy feels suspect, like comparing poetry to tax ledgers. Glaze minerals hiss inside the kiln, tin and copper arguing like marketplace haggler. Memories surface unbidden. A childhood fever cooled by stolen temple tiles. Your mother's hands harder than a porter's. The healer rotates the cup. Its foot ring leaves a temporary brand above your navel. Bodies and pottery, both shaped by invisible pressures. A pigeon feather drifts onto the tray, its barbs splayed like cracked celadon. Drafts swirl kiln smoke into carnal shapes, dragons coiling, phoenixes mid-plumage mold, a particularly suggestive eggplant. You swallow laughter, lungs constricting around residual jasmine musk. Northern song kiln masters often slipped peach blossom wine into their clay. The healers, a NCESTORS Chinese letter, inherited their humor. Your right big toe twitches, nerve endings sparking like misfired pottery. She seizes the foot, thumbs digging into the arch. The Ming developed foot binding, but Wei Song perfected pressure points. The threat lingers, her grip promising enlightenment or broken metatarsals. Kiln roar fades to a contented purr, the beast below sated for now. Cooling teacups chirp as they contract, a chorus of crickets trapped in porcelain. Historians would weep to know apprentice testers earned 1 copper per 100, inspected, risking blindness from flying shards. She places a cup over each ear, its hollow hum transporting you to sea turtle hunting grounds. Your jaw unclenches, molars floating in brine-filled canals. Better than lute music, she brags, adjusting cups like a magistrate tuning his magistracy. Floor heat migrates upward, kneading your calves into dough-soft submission. One cup shatters its demise, a sharp exhalation. The healer shrugs. That's why we make 7. Your pulse syncs with the surviving cups, ticks, arrhythmia, smoothing into a potter's even wheel spin. Dawn inches across discarded teacups, gilding hairline fractures into rivers of light. Somewhere, a surviving cup awaits its patron, a scholar's desk, a concubine's bath chamber, your own hands in a colder century. The healer sweeps shards into a silk pouch. Return these when they cut you. Kiln's last exhale swirls your hair into a temporary crown. Bare feet stick to flagstones, peeled away with a sound like rice paper prayers. Each step echoes the kiln's dying cadence, left, right, an emperor's litter retreating into history. The healer's thumb smears cold paste across your temples. It reeks of pickled ginger and something fainter, like ink dissolving in snow. Ghost flower nectar, harvested when the moon drowns in well water. Her nail traces the paste's path. Your skull surrenders to cotton wool numbness. Song Dynasty physicians prescribed this sap for battle nerves, though whether it cured soldiers or just made them enjoy dying remains debatable. A moth-eaten cushion materializes under your hips. Its embroidery depicts elephants fleeing a forest fire. You sink through centuries of lumpy stuffing, floating eye level with a cobwebbed shelf. Glass vials crowd the wood. One holds a coiled snake, shedding its skin backward. Ignore that imperial prank from Emperor Zhenzong's alchemist. Her chuckle stirs dust, motes into lazy spirals. The numbness spreads downward, collarbones dissolving, ribs unstitching into reed fragments. You attempt speech, your tongue flaps like a beached minnow. She clucks, dribbling more sap behind your ears. Hush now, the flower eats echoes. Modern botanists would kill for this specimen if it actually existed beyond Song-era scroll paintings. Lamplight fractures into prisms, each beam weighted with floating silt. Your left hand rises without permission, fingers passing through light like smoke through temple curtains. Historians still argue whether ghost flower trances inspired Song landscape paintings, or vice versa. A droplet of sap slides into your ear canal. The debate suddenly seems quaint. She arranges your limbs into a starfish sprawl. Palms upturned to catch ceiling leaks. Rainwater from 1023. Best for diluting hallucinations. You don't ask how she preserved northern song, whether some mysteries cling like mildew to wet silk. The numbness now cradles your hips. A frozen river smuggling stolen warmth. Shadows congeal into a shape, a lynx-sized house cat cleaning its paws on your sternum. Its tongue rasps against phantom ribs, each lick erasing a childhood scar. Don't name it, they charge interest. Your chuckle emerges as a soap bubble, popping against a jar labeled dragon sneeze. Use sparingly. Dawn threatens through paper windows. The healer scowls at the light. She rubs paste between her palms, warmth resurrecting your face in stages. Jaw first, then nose. eyebrows last, as if reassembling a disgraced official's portrait. Clarity's overrated, but the bill comes due at cockcrow. Your toes regain sensation, each screaming like a tea whistle, left too long on coals. The ghost flower's curse reveals its depth, every callus and splinter now shouting petitions to the imperial court. She offers a walnut shell of bitter seeds. Chew, unless you enjoy feeling your own heartbeat. The cat shadow dissolves into a stain on the floorboards, its final purr vibrating your molars. You count 13 cracks in the ceiling plaster, each a tributary mapping forgotten arguments. Northern song pharmacists often added opium to ghost flower tinctures, a fact this healer's twitching eye suggests she's rediscovered independently. Cool air sneaks through your left nostril, piercing the sap's oily veil. Reality reassembles in jagged pieces, a torn scroll glued with rice paste. The healer wipes residual numbness from your earlobe, her fingertip catching on a childhood piercing you'd forgotten. Mementos linger like fishbones in broth. Outside, a rooster's cry soars through the mist. She kicks the cushion, sending stuffed lotus seeds flying. Up before your soul sticks to the furniture, your knees crack, a percussion section tuning up for the day's symphony. The ghost flower's gift remains a velvet hollowness where yesterday's regrets once nested. You touch the drying sap, it flakes off like dead skin from a steamed bun. Somewhere, a flower that doesn't exist blooms in a moonless courtyard. Somewhere, a mathematician calculates how many stomped roaches make a liter of nightmare repellent. The healer licks her thumb, erasing the last white streak from your cheek. Next time, bring better wine. Her smirk carves dimples into the morning's flank. You exit with bones full of hummingbird bones, less numb than empty, less empty than paused. The clinic's gate creaks a familiar insult, its iron preferring night customers. River mud squelches between your toes as she herds you back inside. Dawn's glare cuts through last night's mysteries like a cleaver through steamed cake. The abacus waits on a low table, ebony beads oiled with something that glistens too intently. Sit, unless you prefer standing audits. Northern song tax collectors pioneered bead counting for grain levies, though none tried tallying human vitality. You eye the device warily. Its polished rods resemble spinal columns looted from scholar graves. She flicks the top bead. It clicks like a scorpion's claw against stone. Wood for growth, void for decay. Your pulse quickens as beads avalanche across wires, each collision scoring your ribs. 10, 20, 53. Calculations sharper than a salt merchant's ledger. Historians still argue whether these bead rituals healed patients or just terrified them into recovery. The answer lives in her smirk and your sweating palms. A bead snags. She sucks her teeth, recalculates, using the lunar calendar tattooed on her forearm. Imperial astrologers used noodles to measure life force, broke them to assess fracture points. Her nail splits a dried vermicelli strand. The snap echoes through your molars. You glimpse characters burning across the abacus frame. Zhenzong rain, spring of leaking corpses. Best not to ask. 88 beads align, their sheen dimming, as if absorbing porch light. Your essence quantifies, 4 parts wood to 3 void. The diagnosis hums like beehives under your kneecaps, a buzz that mocks arithmetic. You mentally inventory missing percentages. 12% dissolved in forgotten teas, lost to the cat shadow's tongue, stored as credit with questionable lenders. She scrapes bead residue into a clay bowl. It bubbles like fermented black beans. Drink or don't. The paste adheres to the spoon, defying gravity like palace gossip. Tenacious, northern song apothecaries, believed bead impurities cured gout, though court records mention 3 ministers dying mid-gulp. You swallow, the grit coats your throat like misplaced trust. Her abacus disassembles itself, rods collapsing into bone flutes, beads rolling into floor cracks. Numbers lie, but patterns console. A single bead lingers, imprinted with your birth hour. Scholars would sell their ancestors to carbon date it. You pocket the relic before ethics protest. Outside, orioles debate your remaining 88%. Each trill, a decimal point, juddering loose. The healer sweeps calculations into a brazier. Smoke curls into song era numerals. 88, 87, 86. Percentages fraying like hemp sandals. Stop staring, depletion's natural. She kicks the ash, your essence disperses among chickens pecking courtyard dirt. One hen eyes you clucking what might be an interest rate. You exit lighter, not from lost life force, but the relief of finite metrics. Numbers make tolerable prisons, their walls softer than endless maybe. The gate's rusted hinge creaks. A bead falls from your sleeve, multiplying in the mud. The bead sinks into mud, flecked with hen-scratched numerals. Your soles flinch from its new iridescence. A hand steers you toward steaming wicker drink, then count backward from 10. The clay cup holds loquat syrup, golden, thick with song-era phlegm remedies. Northern song physicians prescribed it for lung complaints, and apparently emotional ones. Your tongue touches sweetness first, then bitterness rising like graveyard fog. Half-dissolved sugar crystals catch daylight. You imagine feudal tax collectors levying sucrose tariffs. Childhood echoes surface. Mother's empty bedroll. A porcelain doll sinking in the family well. Historians still argue whether memory tonics worked through herbology or just elegant hypnosis. The healer rolls an amber bead between thumb and blade. Old grief ferments, best swallowed before noon. You gag on the syrup's afterburn. It clings like a creditor's last reminder. She tilts your chin upward. They added crushed pearls during Huizong's reign for aristocratic tears. A pause, then yours get willow ash. Laughter lines crinkle her eyes, unsure if it's medicinal mockery. 3 gulps left, each priced in forgotten sorrows, each lighter than the last. Outside, A caravan bell clangs. Its brassy note fractures your ninth sip. The healer slams the shutter. No discounts for interrupted reminiscing. Cold air licks the syrup's residue, gluing your lips like sealing wax. You recall that first stolen persimmon, its unripe tartness mirroring this brew. Maturity improves most flavors, not regrets, she mutters, stirring a pot of hardening resin. Your emptied cup reveals a hairline crack, and Dynasty diviners read such flaws as portal scars. She flicks the fissure, proof you held on too tight. The admission costs nothing, yet your breath hitches. Some emperors drank molten jade for immortality. You settle for loquat remnants and thinning guilt. A sparrow lands on the windowsill, tilting its head at syrup trails. The healer shoos it. Birdsong ruins the aftertaste. You disagree. Its chirp smooths the bitterness, morphing into a lullaby hummed by your wet nurse. Memory or manipulation? The line blurs like ink in broth. Your fingers find the abacus bead, now warm as fresh blood. She unseals a second vial optional for recurring disappointments. Its contents swirl with suspended pollen. Last summer's loquat blossoms preserved in regret. Ming scholars wrote odes to this syrup's mind-purge properties and its laxative side effects. You decline some stones belong in the well. Dregs caramelize at the cup's bottom. She scrapes them into a lotus leaf. Burial optional, cremation recommended. The leaf catches flame without ignition, curling into carbonized wings. Your throat tightens, not from syrup, but the wing shape's resemblance to a lost kite. 3 blinks erase it. Reward enough for 6 million in therapy. The healer wipes her hands on mulberry paper. Next patient gets your leftovers. Communal healing saves coin. Your laugh surprises both of you, bubbling up like the well's swallowed doll. Historians never mention this part, the way joy sometimes follows bitterness down the gullet. You pocket the charred lotus, a souvenir of selective amnesia. The courtyard smells of burnt sugar and wet scholars' robes, nostalgia's cheap perfume. She proffers a loquat seed, planted where memories won't grow. You swallow it whole, the ultimate contingency. As you exit, sunlight gilds the hen pecking your abacus bead. Its beak skitters across the number 8, an avian accountant revising your ledger. The gate's hinge creaks the same rusty note, or is that your childhood swing? Either way, you hum through closed lips, letting the syrup's aftertaste dissolve into something almost sweet. Moth wings brush your cheek as she arranges the pillow. Its embroidered case bulges with suspicious contours. You prod the lump, something crackles like parchment under silk, cicada shells from last summer's mold. She explains, unstitching a seam to reveal the translucent husk. Northern song nobles tucked them under pillows to repel bad dreams, though Yangtze peasants swore they attracted thunder. Historians still debate whether imperial sleep therapists prescribed them or just plagiarized folklore. The hollow abdomen shimmers, your fingernail traces its vacant thorax. Like wearing a ghost's wedding dress, you mutter. She snorts, flicking a stray hemp thread from the stuffing. More practical than jade pillows, less likely to fracture skulls during night terrors. Your jaw tightens at the mental image. Dynastic concussions feel suddenly plausible. Linen sheets smell of salted plums and distant rainfall. The healer dims the oil lamp with a brass lid. Modern minds cling to thoughts like bats to rafters. This helps them relocate. The explanation hangs unfinished. A moth dive bombs the dying light. You count 6 wing beats per second, a futile distraction from the shell's alien contours. Silk pricks your neck where the chrysalis leg pokes through stitching. 5 minutes pass, maybe 30, before phantom whispers curl from the pillow's seams. A vendor's cry from your childhood market, pickled centipedes. Cure for timid husbands. Then, father's voice bargaining for quieter regrets. The healer swore these weren't auditory, just echoes of the day's last breath. Lee Bai's poetry begs to differ. Moonlight gilds the cicada shell, its fractured optics scattering false stars across the ceiling. You recall Tang-era astronomers mapping comets on mosquito netting. A practice the healer calls lazy but poetic. The husk's eye pits stare back, judging your respiratory rhythm. An ant crawls from its mandible, dragging a speck of whatever nightmares eat for supper. They're just exoskeletons. You tell the darkness. The pillow retaliates with a burst of midday birdsong. Sparrows argue over millet. A warble robin mimics your deceased calligraphy teacher. Silkworms demolish mulberry leaves like tiny lumberjacks. Sleep hygiene never involved this much fauna. Your pinky finger finds the shell's wing case. It crumbles into iridescent powder. Organic matter degrades. The healer warned, but didn't specify you'd inhale its ghost. The taste lingers, damp soil and fermented peach pits. 5 forbidden palace recipes used cicada ash, including an abortifacient tea and ink for faking miracle calligraphy. Dawn threatens in plum blossom hues. Still, the shell whispers third act plot twists from forgotten operas. A general betrays his favorite horse. A drowned concubine haunts a turnip farmer. You're somehow the villain in both. The healer chuckles from her cot. Restlessness means it's working. Her definition of working needs recalibration. You sacrifice propriety, flip the pillow to the cooler side. The cicada shell's ventriloquism switches languages, Neo-Confucian aphorisms delivered in a cormorant fisherman's dialect. 13 heartbeats, later silence. The husk lies spent, its nightmare quota fulfilled, or just bored. Sleep arrives as abruptly as a eunuch's promotion, swallowing you whole. You wade into the lily pond's shallows. Ankle-deep muck sucks at your soles like tempered glue. The healer perches on a moon-washed rock. Her silhouette mimics the stooped cranes in Song-era garden paintings. Breathe where the croaks pause, she commands, as if oxygen respects amphibian concert etiquette. Bullfrogs thrum their gullets, each vibration laps against your shins. Northern Song physicians prescribed water gardens for spleen melancholy, though imperial archives omit treatment durations. A peeper launches itself at your kneecap. Its webbed slap rings out like a damp gong. That one's a soprano, the healer notes, plucking the offender from your leg with silk-tipped tweezers. Midnight humidity glues your robe to collarbones. The same stickiness binding lotus leaves to pond scum. You count 8 species croaking. 12, 17 historians still argue whether Yuan dynasty apothecaries cataloged frog calls as diagnostic tools. A belch-like ribbit echoes. Your diaphragm hitches in involuntary sync. The healer smirks. Liver qi stagnation dislikes B-flat. Something nibbles your big toe. You jerk backward into reeds. Golden carp, she explains, without glancing up from her bamboo clipboard. They've mistaken you for undercooked congee. 9th century pleasure gardens bred them to eat dead skin, a spa treatment for concubines with calloused feet. The fish swirls away, disappointed by your intact epidermis. The chorus swells, a biological orchestra tuning before some wet, slimy symphony. Your inhale aligns with a pulsating grinnell's croak. Exhale sinks to Oregon's spotted counterpoint. A 1998 zoology paper claims synchronized breathing with frogs lowers blood pressure, though the study involved grad students on stimulants. Your lungs burn trying to keep tempo. Mist rises, carrying the metallic tang of tadpole hatchlings and decaying lotus pods. The healer wades closer, her steps precise as a tangram puzzle solving itself. Qing dynasty texts mention music's effect on digestion. That's for weaklings. Real healing happens in the rests between notes. Her thumb presses below your ribcage, forcing a gasp that silences 3 bullfrogs. Water striders skate across the pond's surface. Their shadows dodge moonlight like cursive characters escaping a scroll. You recall Hangzhou's West Lake musicians imitating frog songs with ceramic whistles, a tourist gimmick abandoned after drowning incidents. The healer flicks a leech off your calf. Distractions cost oxygen. Your next breath hooks onto a tree frog staccato trill. Lungs expanding sideways like accordion bellows. An old bestiary claims certain species sing only during Buddhist fasts. But tonight's performers lack spiritual discipline. 2 males duel in crescendo, their dual sends ripples skittering toward mandarin ducks, pretending to sleep. The healer produces a jade tuning fork, strikes it against a rock. The note hums through your molars. Match this pitch. You attempt an ohm. It emerges as a tubercular wheeze. She rolls her eyes, better to harmonize with the fireflies. 23 of them pulse above duckweed. Their light sinks to your faltering tempo. Sludge seeps between toes, a sensation like walking through chilled century eggs. Your 4th left metatarsal remembers Hanoi's monsoon season. The healer's glare silences that memory. Frogs breathe through their skin. Pretend you're equally porous. You try inhaling pond stench, algae, muskrat dens. Regret. A splash interrupts. The largest bullfrog yet surfaces beside you. Its vocal sac inflates, a grotesque balloon swaying to ancestral rhythms. Tang poets compared such throats to war drums, but you're too busy counting glottal pulses to feel inspired. 76, 77. Your ribs ache from the math. Dawn pales the eastern sky. The chorus dwindles as nocturnal performers exit stage left. The healer checks your wrist pulse. 10% improvement. Adequate for a first attempt. She tosses a dried cricket toward the champion croaker. It's snatched midair by a traitorous kingfisher. Your soaked hem drags toward the bank. The healer's final lesson hangs in morning mist. Each breath's a bridge, but you're neither the traveler nor the destination. The pond stills. Last night's liquid air evaporates into something barely holdable. The morning's first sparrow interrupts. Its chirp jabs the pond's stillness like a knitting needle. You wring brown water from your sleeves. The healer watches, waits, pounces. Why chase what drains you? Her question hangs like a spiderweb across a doorway, inescapable yet fragile. Her consultation room smells of burnt mugwort and unasked questions. You kneel on a bamboo mat. Its weave imprints crescents into your shins. 9th century acupuncture guides recommended reusing bronze needles, a thrifty choice, until infections spoiled the savings. She unrolls a cloth bundle. Dull silver points glint like bad intentions. Blunt tools for blunt truths. The first needle slips between 3rd and 4th ribs. Its entrance fee. 1 confession. You mention the midnight markets, the unread letters, the borrowed regrets. She twirls the metal. Foolishness isn't a currency. Pain blooms leisurely, a peony unfurling beneath your sternum. Historians still argue whether Tang Dynasty physicians used acupuncture to expel demons or just bad decisions. Another needle finds the meat of your palm. Her thumb circles the insertion site. This point governs clarity. Pity, we're using subpar equipment. Your protest dies as she taps a 3rd needle above your ankle, the one that still aches before rain. A water clock drips condemnation in the corner. You count 8 drops before she speaks again. Emperor Huizong wrote poems about cranes, while Jurchen armies brood outside Kaifeng's walls. The lesson stings more than the needle's artistry as avoidance tactic. Your tongue cradles excuses like overcooked rice, mushy, bland, safe. She produces a millet pouch, dumps its contents onto your lap. 5 grains to represent your evasions. The seeds scatter, some roll into floor cracks. Future problems for springtime mice. 16th century midwives prescribed millet baths for indecisive mothers, a grainy placebo against life's complexities. You sweep the seeds into a pile. Their weight feels familiar. 5 quatrains you'll never write. She pierces a 5th needle below your earlobe. 3 apologies stuck in your throat. A 6th near the elbow crease. 1 name you're too cowardly to. You flinch, the needle bends. Her sigh smells of yesterday's chrysanthemum tea. Damp robes cling to your spine. The morning chill arrives fashionably late. She mends the bent needle against a whetstone, screeches, fill the room like scalded cats. Northern song metallurgists perfected steel for swords. Healers got the leftovers. You trace a finger over the needle's exit points. Each depression whispers, almost. Fire crackles in the courtyard brazier. Its smoke carries the ghost of last night's prescriptions. She stirs the coals with an iron rod. They burned scholar officials' books here during the New Policies era. Ash makes excellent fertilizer. Your laugh comes out shredded, half amusement, half surrender. The sparrow returns pecking at millet seeds near the threshold. Its beak clicks against bamboo like a miniature abacus. She flicks a needle toward the bird. It misses, purposefully. Return before the moon thins. She warns the fleeing shadow. You envy its escape route. Your remaining confession sits lead-heavy behind molars, a truth too chewed over to swallow. She reads it anyway, in the twitch of your littlest finger, in the asymmetric slump of shoulders. The needle at your ribs vibrates, responding to some silent hymn. When she removes the needles, the room deflates. Blood beads form perfect spheres, mercurial legal experiments from a simpler time. You press a thumb to the chest wound, expecting catharsis, getting lint. She offers roasted barley tea. Its bitterness scrubs the last echoes of frog song from your throat. Steam fogs the air between you, a temporary curtain. Her final assessment lands like a dropped sutra. Cowards get blunter needles next time. Through the open door, dawn hardens into daylight. The sparrow's mate scolds unseen transgressions. Their argument syncs with your pulse. You sip a stall, settle into the silence she grants, like borrowed robes. Truth waits at the bottom of the cup, patient as unpopped millet. The copper bowl steals moonlight first, its greenish patina swallowing whole constellations. You tilt your head. Cassiopeia's W bends like a drunk calligrapher's attempt. 9th century astronomers plotted star paths with armillary spheres. This clinic's tools lean more poetic. She scrapes the bowl's rim with a jade dagger. The screech sets your back teeth humming. Emperor Zhenzong's alchemists stirred comet dust into immortality elixirs. Her ladle dips into the celestial soup. Liquid starlight glops like congealed quicksilver. Historians still argue whether Song Dynasty star maps guided navigators or just bureaucrats' promotions. You breathe in, the brew smells of nothing, a scentless theft of the sky's inventory. She thrusts the bowl at you. Your knuckles whiten against chilled metal. Mirrors and copper, ancient vanity tools repurposed. A joke lingers in her raised eyebrow. You're too busy counting floating Pleiades fragments to laugh. One star shard sticks to your lip, dissolves into metallic sweetness. Your tongue maps the aftertaste. Distant supernovae, ambition, the tang of monastic grade lead. 13th century Persian traders believed swallowing starlight cured melancholia. provided you collected it during Mercury retrograde. The healer ripples the surface with a willow stick. Orion's belt unravels into spirals. Drink before the reflection fades. You gag on a particularly dense patch of Milky Way. It claws down your throat like crystallized comet tails. She smirks at your shudder, begins scraping the bowl's dregs with a badger hair brush. They used to paint star positions on silk until some concubine noticed the fabric ripped during eclipses. Tiny droplets fly. Each speck glows faintly before dying on the floor tiles. Your fingertips find the bowl's engraved characters. A poem about moon rabbits worn smooth by dynasties of thumbs. A bat swoops through the courtyard, its shadow briefly constellation-shaped. The healer flicks stardust from her sleeves. The motion stirs a breeze smelling of burnt telescope lenses. Northern Song astrologers recorded a guest star in Taurus. Modern scholars think it was a supernova visible for 23 days. You press a palm to your sternum. Galaxies churn behind your navel. Breathe out the lesser stars first. Her palm slaps between your shoulder blades. Ursa Minor exits your nostrils in a glittering sneeze. Residual starlight prickles your molars. You could bite down and crack a galaxy. She rubs the bowl's residue into your temples. The cold seeps through skull nestles against your amygdala. Taoist star priests once drank mercury to align with celestial flows. Their autopsy reports were predictably brief. The healer wipes her hands on a rag. Constellations smear into gray nothingness. Better. You nod. Lies come easier when your pineal glands vibrating at stellar frequencies. A half-moon leers through the clinic's rafters. Its light feels cheaper now, a tin replica of the real thing. She upturns the bowl. The last drop clings like a dying firefly. Su Jingzong wrote that stars are heaven's unblinking eyes, conveniently ignoring his own embezzlement charges. Your laugh echoes hollow, a poorly cast bell. 18th century Korean stargazers used kimchi jars to amplify faint constellations and possibly store leftovers. When you stand, gravity feels newly negotiated. Each step squelches starlight in your marrow, supernova remnants sparkling in capillaries. The healer tosses the bowl into a cedar chest. Its clang scatters rats in the walls. Come back when Sirius outshines the moon. You touch your throat. Cassiopeia winks from somewhere behind your uvula. Outside, counterfeit stars prick the velvet sky. You count 7 fabricated ones before the real ones hum into focus. Their light carries the aftertaste of stolen copper. Your blistered soles meet water so black it drinks the clinic's lamplight whole. 3 fistfuls of incense ash dissolve as you watch centuries of temple offerings turned to silt. Song Dynasty nobility soaked feet in musk deer urine. For gout, this smells marginally better. She kneels without ceremony. Calloused thumbs dig into your arch like an archaeologist unearthing pottery shards. Ash from Guangxiao Temple's eternal flame, best for dissolving winter's grudges. Her dipper overflows with gray sludge. you half expect coins mixed in. Historians still argue whether Tang-era foot rituals cured ailments or just fattened pedicurists' purses. The first scoop hits your ankle, heat creeps upward, tendons unravel like wet silk thread. Smoke-tinged water sloshes. A cinnabar-stained toe floats to the surface. She peels dead skin with duckbill tweezers. The strips curl like burning prayer scrolls. 9th century concubines allegedly smuggled love notes in bathwater. Your heels crack could hide 3 sonnets. When she scrubs your pinky toe, your jaw unclenches. A domino effect, rattling dormant vertebrae. Emperor Huizong's poets wrote odes to courtesans' feet. Shame none described their fungal treatments. A jest, you think, until she reveals lacquered boxes of moldering treatment logs. The water's murk deepens. Strands of your hair swirl, forming temporary constellations. Someone hung wind chimes carved from whale ear bones. Outside, their clinks sink with each scrape of pumice. Your big toes scar, a childhood axe mishap, glows opalescent under ash film. She prods it. Pain remembers what skin forgives. Northern song medics used fermented tadpoles for wound cleaning. You mentally thank progress. 3 carp scales surface suddenly. Who knows how long they've been marinating in this ancient soup? She wraps your left foot first. Linen strips dyed with rust and regret. The bindings hiss like wet firewood. Steam rises in spirals mimicking your earlier breath patterns. Ming Dynasty foot inspectors allegedly graded brides on toe pliability. The healer's clinical frown suggests you'd score lower than a concubine with bound feet. Night leaks through floor cracks. Shadow tendrils probe the water's edge. She dunks your entire foot abruptly to reset the humors. Your yelp startles a gecko off the ceiling beam. Southern tea merchants once paid alchemists to age foot pumice in wine jars for reasons best forgotten. When she massages the ball of your foot, a repressed sneeze from 1998 finally escapes. Ash mud dries into a cracked desert landscape. Your soul becomes a relief map of droughts endured. She cracks it open with a spatula. The scent of extinguished altars floods your sinuses. Some Tang monks believed foot calluses stored past life sins. Yours could supply a monastery. A single white hair swirls down the drain. She claims it's from Li Bai's legendary beard. The final rinse uses broth from night-blooming cucumbers, their vines still twitching in a corner jar. Water droplets flee your skin, rolling like quicksilver across the floorboards. Historians still argue whether Empress Liu bathed in lychee wine or just drank it. Your heel lands on a warm tile. Its fractures form luo, shoe magic squares. She pats your foot dry with paper made from mulberry and wasp nests. The texture suggests diplomatic letters shredded after an unsuccessful truce. A mosquito drinks from your damp ankle. She slaps it into next week without breaking eye contact. When you stand, the floor tilts, ash runoff puddling into temporary ink stones. She blows out the lamps. Foot-shaped afterimages float in the sudden dark. This close, her breathing, matches the tide charts you once smuggled out of Kwangju. The gecko returns, skittering across your big toe like a wagoneer late on taxes. Its tail detaches, writhes, becomes a line of cursive describing forgotten promises. She sweeps it into a dustpan, breaking dawn's problem now. Your souls leave gray ghosts on the stairs, each footprint evaporating before reaching the landing. Your souls leave gray ghosts on the stairs, each footprint evaporating before reaching the landing. Drumbeats throb through the eastern wall. A black-lacquered merchant barge docks where the canal widens. Hawkers hawk remedies that outshine imperial physicians. Their cries pierce cedarwood shutters. You reach for the gate latch, her fingers cage yours, cold as Tangera burial coins. 30 silver coins bought Emperor Renzong's concubine a night's oblivion. She nods toward the river. Joss paper boats carry flame-drowned wishes downstream. What price your exhaustion? Historians still argue whether Song midnight markets sold opium or just overpriced day-old dumplings. A lute string snaps mid-scale. Someone laughs like a fox evading hounds. Through the gate's bamboo weave, you glimpse silk sacks labeled dragon's sneeze powder. 9th century grave robbers swore medicinal mushrooms grew best on unmarked tombs. These look suspiciously woody. A perfumer's assistant juggles bladder-shaped bottles. His shadow mimics the exact arm motions of a drowning man. She blocks your view with a rolled scroll. Its wax seal depicts a snake eating its own scales. Li Qingzhao wrote her best poems, sleeping. Dream merchants steal that thickness behind your eyes. The warning smells of ginger and parental disappointment. Beneath the dock carp gnaw on rooster crests, tossed by gambling apothecaries. Someone auctioned a Shenzongyera yawn in an amphora bidding climbs, with each wave against the barge. Northern Song officials taxed sleep aids more harshly than grain. Your eyelid twitch remembers. A vendor waves dried seahorses stuffed with lotus heads. Their hollow eyes track your retreat into shadows. The healer unfolds a fan painted with insomniac cranes. Its crease marks diagram pressure points for self-strangulation. They'll sell you Liu Hui's arithmetic manuals recopied in owl blood. You interrupt, proud of catching her rhythm. Soy sauce, she deadpans. The forgers got thirsty. Drummers switch to a rhythmic pounding. Caged mynah birds shriek mathematical theorems. A tea seller's banner unfurls. Sway Yongdi's last sip, brewed fresh hourly. Actual historians facepalm in the afterlife. She steers you backward, your heel crushes a vial labeled Archimedes. Last bathwater, authentic. Restoration charges extra. She mutters, sweeping glass shards into a pouch that hums. Southern Song puppeteers used sleep-deprived crickets to power mechanical theater. The sound resurfaces in your molars. You itch to ask about the eunuch's revenge elixir. Glowing nearby, her glare answers preemptively. Lamplight reveals the barge's hull, every plank signed by dead philosophers. Wang Anshi's handwriting loops aggressively around a suspicious patched hole. Fake, she sniffs. His calligraphy never wasted that much ink. A child splashes past with Confucius. Sweat urns strapped to both feet. Parenting goals vary. The gate bolt slides home. Its iron tongue licks 3 times like a cautious lover. She pockets the key. Dreams can wait. Starvation trumps curiosity. Through a crack, you watch merchants hawk moon-bleached owl feathers and authentic Qin Dynasty alarm clocks. One cuckoo emerges, stays, files for residency. Your palate awaits, stuffed with seaweed that crackles like distant applause. She tucks the blanket's hem. 10 generations, starved guarding the shale-in sleep scrolls. You think this trash is better. The mattress contours suggest previous occupants practiced amateur cartography. Outside, someone barters with a debt ledger. Pages tear, float up, disperse, like fireflies avoiding capture. You name 3 constellations before remembering Song astronomers often hallucinated them during eclipse preparations. The healer extinguishes the last candle. Her chuckle implies you failed a test you didn't hear. Dockworkers sing a harvest song off-key. Relics in their bamboo baskets rattle like disapproving ancestors. The 5 poisons shadow puppetry begins. Its scorpion stings the exact shade of your childhood bedroom walls. She rolls over her hair, fans across the pillow like ink stroke frozen mid-rebuke. Drums dwindle, replaced by water pythonism. Their slithers sink with your pulse decelerating. The black market's laughter dissolves into the croak of beggars' flutes. Musical saws cutting dawn's fabric into strips. Breath deepens. Stalls restarts as something less jagged when the barge's last lantern drowns. Silence pools, thick as alchemist's honey. She whispers, tomorrow's unsold panaceas will season the Hangzhou soup kitchens. Your toes curl against cotton-worn transparent threads, as frail as promises made to extended family. Moonlight paints vendor stalls silver. Their emptiness reveals poorly erased price gouges. A child's abandoned bamboo sword floats past, its hilt wrapped in medicinal mummy gauze. The healer's snore manifests, a contented growl from some dynastic warhorse mural. Your final waking thought, merchant tents folding like uneaten dumplings. Her final murmured truth, dawn always claims its tax, then mercifully the river swallows its own echoes. Moon puddles thin to dawn's gray broth, the vial's glow outlasts both. She presses chilled hands around yours, guides them away from the glass. That one scorched tang astronomers, beards off in 837, still owes royalties. The residue swirls. Its greenish trails remind you of fermented firefly ink. Empress Liu herself allegedly drank comet dust for eternal youth, her portrait aged backwards, then sidewards. That great comet of 837 caused panic when shadows started bleeding. Or so court poets claimed. A historian at Kaifeng University swears they found stellar residue in Song toilets, proof of failed alchemy. The vial's warmth seeps through your sleeve, a pleasant burn till it isn't. She rotates the container. Its base bears a sketchy imperial seal. Huizong's artisans forged constellations in jade. This headache's more honest. You squint. The seal's three-legged crow looks suspiciously cross-eyed. Outside, a milk seller's yoke creaks under the weight of authentic Andromeda udders. Someone's grifting ancestors would beam with pride. The residue thickens when you breathe, coiling into shapes like cursive insults. She taps the glass. Pleiades concentrate here. If you squint through vomit, your fingertip tingles millimeters from contact. Skin, remembering childhood burns from stolen mooncakes. A scrap vendor peddles disgraced star charts across the canal. His pricing strategy involves dart throws. They melted down 7 astrolabes to make this. She tilts the vial. Liquid light climbs the rim. Astronomer officials got demoted to goose herders for less. Tang Dynasty peasants once blamed a comet for turnip blight. Tax collectors disagreed. You envision cosmic judgment for overdue library books. Half your misdemeanors float in this glass. Dawn stripes the floor. Her shadow becomes a sundial signaling departure. Mason Cinnabar mines paid workers in stardust. 3 strikes caused spontaneous beard combustion. The vial's surface mists. The air smells of burnt laurel and stage fright. Someone coughs next door, a wet, metallic hack echoing imperial summons. She pockets the relic. Its glow limns a lump of fossilized honeycake in her sleeve. Su Dongpo wrote whole odes about swallowing comet tails. Cursive gets wilder in verse 42. You think of poets scribbling by dung-fire light, their metaphors outpacing common sense. A fly drowns in your teacup. Its final kicks mirror Cassiopeia. Footsteps approach, she stiffens. A voice declaims lost star maps through the wall. Noodle vendor, she shrugs. His great-granduncle navigated using this. Vial, turtle entrails. Results were interpretive. The glass fog clears, you glimpse your reflection, warped into a future self 3 heartbreaks wiser. She slams it face down, mirrors lie. Comet's record, your knees recall, all stairs ever climbed. Your liver critiques last night's tea. Tourmaline dust swirls where dawn light hits the floor, grounding you in mineral reality. Carts clatter outside. Vendors hawk moon-washed radishes and authentic zodiacal talismans. A child's balloon escapes. Its crudely drawn Big Dipper pierces a cloud shaped like the Ministry of Rites. The Lantern Festival used comet ash and fireworks. She muses. Incinerated THREE, Chinese letter vendors, and a very witty kangaroo. Historians still argue whether Song alchemists ever truly captured starlight or just inhaled too much mercury. Her wink suggests participation. You taste copper, realize you've bitten your cheek raw. The vial's hum syncs with monastery bells, tolling false dawn. She rubs the glass against her sleeve. It dims to a petulant smolder. He wrote whole algebraic treatises by this glow. May she haunt those who banned her. Your thumbprint hovers, skin cells pilling in the electrostatic pull. A potted orchid wilts as the vial passes, its petals crisping like monks' ears during lectures. The latch trembles. Night soil collectors gossip about a comet shard stolen from Hangzhou Tower. She barricades the door with a suspiciously light trunk. Monks once chanted sutras into telescope tubes. Their debates charred the sutra hall beams. Thirst arrives. She produces a cup of crushed pearl solution. Comet neutralizer. It's lukewarm and tastes of dentist visits. Distant thunder rumbles. Clouds fake enthusiasm for meteorological diligence. The vial's light pulses, nowhere near circadian. Shadows congeal into shapes. One resembles your third uncle scolding a chicken. She waves smoke from the censer. Stargazing turns brains to porridge. Sleep resets the bowl. You inhale bergamot resin. The world gains unnecessary softness around its edges. When the knock comes loud and imperial, you're holding the vial without memory of moving. She pries it loose. Not everyone deserves their fire. The glass cracks. Its light spills across the floorboards, writing something best unread. Carpooling constellations wink out as true dawn breaches. She sweeps debris into a silk pouch. The last glow licks her wrist harmless as a yawn. Authentic comet replicas now 80% off. Hawkers bicker over eclipse timing outside. Your palm still tingles a phantom burn, unspooling into tomorrow's regrets. One final flicker beneath the bed, perhaps stardust, perhaps a bioluminescent roach. Either way, it winks at you twice before demoting itself to myth. Dawn stains the inkstone gray. Your brush trembles like a guilty dowager's fan. She corrects your grip fingers, repositioned with the precision of rice paper cuts. HUICONGS, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter scripts, required 9 tail hairs from albino weasels. She notes, your bristles came from a hungover donkey. The ink pool darkens as you grind pine soot and mummified ox bile mingle into history. Your first stroke resembles a disemboweled centipede. She laughs through her nose. Imperial examinations failed candidates for less. But then they used better glue. Song Dynasty ink sticks often included crushed pearls, a flex against peasantry. Using fishbone charcoal, your version smells like a scholar's failed soup experiment. Outside, an apprentice sweeps comet ash into the shape of a disgraced calligrapher. Chengyuan monks wrote sutras with ink containing hallucinogenic mushrooms. She tilts your wrist, hence all those enlightened typos. Your second character curls into something resembling a pregnant stork, a marked improvement. Scholars still debate whether Emperor Huizong's delicate calligraphy weakened his reign. Armies crumble. Ink endures. A drop splatters the rice paper, bloating the character Chinese letter into a drunkard's blot. 5 more sheets ruined. She sighs. You occupy the same percentile as Mongol warlords. 11th century scribes trained using water on reusable tiles. A mercy you're denied. The inkstone cracks. You pretend not to notice. Her correction brush darts in transforming your ink blob into a passable lotus. Mind the Chinese letter technique. Rebel against the stroke's natural flow. Your attempt suggests a crippled tadpole mid-existential crisis, but she nods. Progress. A fly drowns in your ink, posthumously contributing to the radical Chinese letter. Morning light exposes your shaky lines, each character confessing sins of motor control. She produces a Tang-era wrist stabilizer, its jade counterweights stolen from a burial suit. Borrowed from a friend, she lies. The jade glows, faintly radioactive. Your next stroke pierces the paper, leaving a hole where perseverance should have been. 11th century scroll forgers used fermented snail mucus to mimic aged paper. It reeked of desperation. She patches the tear with translucent cicada wings, your incompetence now backlit. A merchant outside hawks authentic Wang Zizhai practice sheets. They're clearly used dumpling wrappers. You dot the eye like radical with excess seal, creating an ink pimple that throbs in quiet shame. Gyu Zai painted landscapes to guide calligrapher's brushwork, then drank himself to death. She swaps your brush for a sparrow feather quill. It tickles the paper into submission. A child's laughter floats through the window. They're tracing characters in the mud with a stick better than you. Many Southern song clerks developed hunchbacks from writing apology edicts. She remarks your spine creaks in solidarity. The ink takes 12 minutes to dry, during which you reconsider all life choices. Famous last words. I'll just add one more stroke. She points at your mangled Chinese letter character, now resembling a drunk spider. Northern Wei tomb murals show scribes being flogged for smudges. You instinctively shield your knuckles. A bead of sweat rolls off your nose, completing the radical Chinese letter with pathos. At the 20th attempt, your Chinese letter character achieves mediocrity. 3 of 8 traditional strokes, adequate for laundry lists. She files your nail to a calligraphy, quill's point, a questionable honor. Dispatch writers once tattooed urgent messages on their thighs, legibility optional. The grinding stone squeaks, each rotation a dirge for your dignity. Inkmakers guard recipes closer than concubines. This batch curdled because you blinked wrong. Your spine unkinks like a resentful accordion, the scent of failure now embedded in ink-stained sleeves. Noon approaches your characters, still hemorrhage sincerity. She confiscates your brush. Practice breathing through the brush tip. Imagine you're a bribed memorial writer. The resulting stroke almost resembles language if you squint. A crow pilfers your worst attempt. The monstrosity Chinese letter makes decent nest insulation. She burns the evidence. Smoke curls into a perfect seal script Chinese letter. Come back when humility outweighs ambition. Sunlight bleaches your shame to irrelevance. The inkstone surrenders its last usable puddle. Across the courtyard, a cat sharpens claws on a steel, rubbings you envy its confidence. Your palm prints memorialize today's efforts, ghostly and incomplete, unpaid debts to the ink gods. Her lantern gutters as you kneel, rice paper sticks to sweaty palms like guilty secrets. She slides a bone knife across the table. The edge winks under moonlight. Ming scribes buried confession letters with the dead liars. Paper always rotted first. Your thumbnail worries a hangnail. What's one more open wound? Fingers hesitate above the first envelope, its surface slick with beeswax and cowardice. Across the room, a Tang Dynasty incense clock coughs sand onto carved tiger heads. Historians still argue whether Song mourners burned effigies as therapy or just cheaper than gravestones. The blade nicks your index finger. Blood blooms like a smuggled peony. Name them. She orders smoke from her pipe curls into the character for regret. Your first scratch reads the winter ant lihua, sold mother's jade comb, paper wrinkles under saltwater stains. 10th century magistrates used tear-stained petitions as evidence. You hope this burns faster. She tosses a fistful of chrysanthemum petals into the brazier. Flames lick purple. Each confession crisps at the edges. Shoved brother into the carp pond. Stole father's last coin. Hid grandmother's death poem. Ash swirls into the 8 trigrams before disintegrating. Your chest tightens. Memories you'd swallowed for decades, now smoke thin. Southern song tax collectors wrote debtors' sins on cursed paper, said it prevented embezzlement. Her laugh sounds like rattling abacus beads. The 6th envelope sticks, its sealant made from trampled wedding rice. Let the hawthorn tree blight. Take Feng village smolders with particular viciousness. A rogue ember lands on your sleeve. You shake it off like an errant cricket. See how the characters glow before vanishing. She pokes the ashes. The paper's sizing contains crushed firefly abdomens. Your 8th confession wished old Master Chen's gout would spread. Flare vitrifies into greenish cinders. Between breaths, the room smells of charcoal and long-dried tears. You falter at the 13th envelope, its contents thicker, angrier, knotted with twine. Tang psychiatric manuals prescribed burning grudge lists with mugwort, whether it cured anything's lost to time. The characters, I'm glad, she drowned char into shadows on the ceiling. Dawn infiltrates through paper window panes. Ashes now spell Chinese letter, release. Your raw fingertips hover above the final pouch river reeds, woven into the shape of a heart. She nods toward the cooling brazier. Chen Dynasty royals added gold leaf to apology notes, made them heavier to burn. The last confession unfurls. I poisoned the well, but matches refuse to strike. Her sigh parts the lingering smoke. Perhaps that one needs walking. Scholars still debate whether Northern Song cremation laws aimed to save farmland or memories. A single ash mote lands on your tongue, bittersweet as stolen honey. Outside, the widow's loom clicks its reproach. She sweeps the remains into a celadon urn, Your regrets clink like poor currency. Come back when you've grown fresh lies, she murmurs, already lighting another's envelopes. Pine resin seals the urn, temporary being the only guarantee. Your shadow stretches toward the gate, lighter, trailing tendrils of maybe forgiveness. Somewhere beyond the wall, a child laughs at a joke the ashes refuse to repeat. The widow's loom still ticks like a faulty heartbeat as she ladles roasted barley into a celadon teapot. Dawn stripes the clinic floor pale as steamed milk, but your bones cling to night's residue. Song court physicians prescribed barley tea for battlefield shock. She remarks, knuckles brushing the kettle's bronze handle. Steam ghosts upward, carrying the scent of burnt fields after harvest. You trail a finger through condensation on the table, drawing meaningless spirals. They added powdered jade to imperial brews, turned nobles' teeth green as frog skin. Her chuckle rasps like a well pulley. The cup she pushes toward you radiates warmth through clay, 9 generations of potters, fingerprints baked into its curve. First sip, toasted grain bitterness coats your tongue. Second, earthiness elbows aside the aftertaste of last night's cinders. A stray barley husk floats, taunting your reflection. Northern song tea masters debated clay versus iron kettles for 6 decades, she says, pouring her own portion. Drowned 3 scholars in a Chinese letter over water temperature. Your thumb traces the cup's hairline crack, flawed, but holding. Outside, cartwheels creak toward the morning market. Historians still argue whether roadside tea stalls spread revolutionary ideas or just dysentery. She nudges a bamboo tray of pine nuts toward you, their shells split like miniature coffins. Steep longer next time, she murmurs, folding your hands around the vessel. Her palms linger calluses, mapping decades of herb scorching and scalded kettles. The brew darkens from amber to umber, each extra minute muting yesterday's ash tang. A house sparrow lands on the windowsill, tilts its head at your steaming breath. You fish out the soggy barley grains, arrange them in a mock battle formation. 10th century strategists used tea dregs for war games, she observes, crushing your armies with a mortar. Genghis Khan's scouts carried fermented mare's milk tea in hollowed ram horns. The defeated troops stick to your fingertips, clingy as unresolved regrets. Final draft, cool enough to swallow whole. The liquid carves a warm path to your stomach, anchoring flesh to bone. She retrieves the cup, scours it with salt from a scallop shell. Ming sailors believed salt-polished vessels warded off sea ghosts, she explains. Though you're miles from any coast, footsteps approach the clinic door, someone younger, limper, more fragrant, with fresh wounds. She doesn't turn, already measuring chamomile for the next soul. Your shadow hesitates at the threshold, stretched thin by ascending sun. A last glance back catches her wiping the table, erasing your ring stain from the wood. The gate creaks its farewell. Somewhere beyond the kiln house, a child shrieks at a grasshopper. Your tongue probes a barley husk wedged between molars, bittersweet, stubborn yours. The widow presses a warm scallop shell into your palm, salt-crusted edges worn smooth by forgotten tides. Dawn's light softens now, honey-thick, pooling around her ankles as she hums a tea-horse road ballad. Your cup sits empty, its crack a silver river on the clay, still humming with vanished heat. She tucks a barley husk behind your ear, its papery whisper brushing your temple like a half-remembered lullaby. 8th century monks buried these in meditation gardens. She murmurs, drawing the shutters against the climbing sun, sprouted where mourners spilled their grief. Outside, the market's clamor melts into cattle bells, a distant flute threading through locust song. Her fingers brush your sleeve brief as a moth's wing, guiding you past splintered crates of dried chrysanthemum. The gate's rusted hinge size open, a familiar ache in its voice. You pause, soul pressed against the threshold stone, still damp with dew. Somewhere behind you, mortar grinds against pestle, chamomile dust settling like first snow. A breeze plucks the husk from your hair, carries it toward the kiln's fading embers. You count your breaths, 8, 9, 10, until they match the widow's drowsy cadence. The road unfurls pale and forgiving as your shadow dissolves into daylight. Her final words linger warmer than steam. Sleep walks beside you. The wind seems to sigh. And for once, you believe it.